There you go.
Live. All right. So,
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another edition to All Politics of Local America's number one hip hop talk and radio show. And on this Friday, this Friday is the Friday that we have our beloved hometown congressman, bearer of tradition, the representation for the people in the halls of Congress. We're proud to and always happy to have our beloved Congressman Donald Payne Jr. in the house, and of course, our founding producer, the great Jonathan Alston. Right? We're going to try and ride you through this powerful segment with our beloved Congressman Payne. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, brother Congressman. What's going on?
Thank you. Welcome,
Mr. Muhammad. How are you today, sir?
All right, sir. Look who's almost on perfect time.
I know.
Adam Donna K has emerged.
We have the wonderful Donna Williams.
The flower as the thorns.
Yes.
Welcome.
Why can't I hear you?
I don't know.
We can hear you.
All right, we can hear you well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Master debater extraordinaire. Masturbator extraordinaire, John Austin.
Wow.
Hey,
You came from me from the beginning. Wow, Congressman.
Oh my God.
We were gonna be like, I was like, yo, man, let's talk about infrastructure. And you're like, wow.
No, I'm saying the master debater.
It sounded like you said something else.
You forgot a syllable.
Yeah. See where y'all are at. I'm up here and y'all are way down there. I'm up here and y'all are way down there.
Oh my God, Allah.
That audio must not be working, right? Like Donna was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me, the audio?
So he is indeed the master debater, the master debate coach of all time. You got that right.
Oh man, no, not even.
That was funny.
That could get a little twisted. Whoa.
A little bit tongue twisters.
We ain't having that.
Right. So we got you on, man, and so we are always happy to have you in the Payne Report. So what is going on, my brother? What's going on?
Well, it's another lovely day in the neighborhood, and the president continues to try to push forward his infrastructure plan. We have a so-called Democrat in the Senate from West Virginia who is holding up the whole kit and caboodle. He is holding out for bipartisan participation by the Republicans in the Senate, and I think he's waiting for the impossible. He's been in that body for, I believe, at least 10 years now, and has had to been paying attention. They haven't done anything bipartisanly in probably as long as he's been there. So
since when? That's right.
I don't know what he's looking for to change all of a sudden. They're upset and acting like children that they lost the election. They're almost acting like they want to take the toys and go home and don't want to play.
Right.
But they're playing with the American people's future. They're playing with their money, and it just doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. Do you think that he's just playing for? Do you think he's like serious, as in he will never do a deal unless Republicans agree and water it way down, or do you think he's just like being used, or using himself to be like, look, man, I tried everything, and they still stabbed me in the back? Do you think he's going to let the whole thing go down in flames?
I think it's a combination of both of the statements you just made, John. he is in a state where Trump received 69 to 70% of the vote. So for him, to be a Democrat in that situation is a very delicate balancing act that he has to play anyway. So I think it's a combination of both of the statements you just made.
And I know that you've been doing a lot of really good work on that. Like you've been talking about infrastructure for years, right? I remember back maybe when you first got the Payne, when the Payne report first started, you were talking about going on a train and seeing what what Amtrak and New Jersey Transit really look like when the lights are on, and you talked about the importance of that. Has any of that changed or gotten better, or is this as urgent as ever?
Oh no, it's as urgent as ever. I mean, that was 7 years ago, and so the situation hasn't changed for the better, and so we really need to get moving on this before there is something that critically fails, and we have a major situation on our hands.
Yeah.
If either one of those tunnels were to fail, train travel would stop on the East Coast. Between Maine and North Carolina. So it's something that we really we've been talking about, and we need to get to the work at hand and repair these tunnels. So, build the third tunnel in order to repair the other two, because you need two-way traffic. You couldn't have 430 New Jersey, 430 trains go through that tunnel every day, and it's just it's really the most crucial infrastructure project in the country. And then even on that same corridor, we have to deal with the Baltimore tunnel, which is failing, and so that's another project on the Northeast corridor that needs to be addressed soon as well. So I'm looking at all of that. I've made it clear to my colleagues that are concerned that my only concern is the Gateway project, which is not true. It is one of my top priorities because it is so crucial to the the economic engine in this country. 20% of this country's GDP goes through those tunnels, and so it is the most critical infrastructure project in the nation at this point in time. So, yes, it's number one, but it's not the only thing that is on my docket and concern. I am the chairman of the entire rail system for the nation, so there are many other projects that I need to look at. So,
and
go ahead, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask on the rail and infrastructure project. That third tunnel that you talked about was the tunnel that you talked about, the Gateway. That's the tunnel that was supposed to have been built, or at least started 10 years ago, and then that was scuttled on the Obama administration. But it's a third tunnel. Can you tell us something about that? Is that
Christy sent the check back?
That's right.
The Gateway project
Christy blew that one.
is refitting of a project that was the ARC tunnel, and it wasn't the Obama administration; it was the Christie administration that scuttled the project. And basically, what he did was he just wanted to put his name on it, and so he took the same project, put it in a new package and bow, and then and then presented it again as the Gateway Project. But it's the Arc Tunnel project that was scuttled. And if we had done the project at that time, we'd already be done digging through under the Hudson River, and would be well on our way to creating that new tunnel. Yeah, thank you, Governor Christie, once again, for helping New Jersey end up on the wrong end of the deal.
Yeah, that's and once upon a time, legend has it that Republicans were guys who were good on the economy. And the thing that's so crazy about it is that this is such a common sense project that everybody involved would benefit from, would boost the economy tremendously, right? Put a lot of people back to work, and it's just a rich place to, do some basic work that is one of the hallmarks of the country's makeup and economic capacity. And it's just somebody does some music in the background.
All right, hey.
And it ain't DJ Rhino.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's really a situation where it's critical, because through Superstorm Sandy, a lot of salt water got into those tunnels, and if you know anything about electrical work, salt water and electrical equipment don't mix, and so there's a lot of disrepair, with what happened during Superstorm Sandy, and plus they're over 100 years old.
Yes,
it's just time that the third tunnel needs to be created in order just to do the repairs on the other two. So plus it would enhance the availability of transit, even being growing more in this green economy that we want to look at, and reducing our carbon footprint. It would help us have another tunnel, when traffic is heaviest, have that tunnel run, into the city in the morning and out of the city in the evening, and would help with on-time rail service, and also the capacity to have it grow. So that's really why it's so necessary.
Right. And so you were talking about West Virginia earlier. Are there a lot of really good projects in West Virginia that will make the West Virginia voters be like, good deal? Like, is there a lot of stuff that they could possibly use, whether it's rail or anything like that? Like, I remember before in Congress, there used to be these negotiations where people would get projects built in their districts. They called it pork. It was kind of negotiation. Do you think we need to bring that back?
Well, we've actually have kind of brought back a situation with respect to that, not in the manner which it used to be, but we're looking at the potential of members being able to point through community projects that can be done. But I'm sure there are a lot of things that need to be done in West Virginia. West Virginia is really an interesting study in what not to happen. West Virginia is the only state where the death rate is higher than the birth rate in
Damn.
And there are a lot of issues around hypertension and I like the work I'm doing around amputations, and so health. The health issues in West Virginia are very dire, and so I'm sure there are quite a few things that West Virginia could use, as well as most other states. So we continue to do what we can to make the situation for everyone in this country better. And I've been working on my amputation piece of legislation that I just dropped. It's called the ARC Act, and it's the Reducing Amputations and Compassion Act. So we're calling it the ARC Act, and I just was proud to release it before we went on a district work week, and so that'll be the next piece of legislation that I'm really pushing on. I'm still working on my cash bill, and the move afoot in this country to do away with cash. And so I'm working on that bill as well. And I have one other bill in the colorectal cancer space as well. There are new blood-based tests to test for colorectal cancer, which would alleviate, if unnecessary, you wouldn't have to go through a colonoscopy unless they detected something in this blood test. So it could keep you from having an unnecessary colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
But if this test detects something in your blood, then that would be the natural next step. But it would be a way for more people to get tested that have shied away from, colonoscopies, as my father did, and then succumb to the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you'd get more people to be willing to take a blood test than a colonoscopy. And, it would be the pre-step before colonoscopy. So I've got that bill moving through the Congress as well. So, it's interesting. A lot of my work is in healthcare, and a lot of that's because, I have obviously suffered from a lot of these issues. So I don't sit on any committee of jurisdiction in healthcare, but most of my work is around that because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So I've been a true proponent of that because of the disparities in our community, and so I feel it's an obligation to try to do something about it.
So the first thing you talked about was the CARE Act, the one that you just put out, right? Like the one that deals with amputations and the stuff that we talked about on the program last month when you had that incredible Dr.
Dr. Reddy.
Oh,
As a matter of fact,
incredible young man.
I was just with him. Yesterday I got an award from the National Association of which one is it? The National Association of Cardiovascular Surgeons, and they gave me their Trailblazer and Achiever Award because of the work that I've done around this topic. It was very humble, and so he got to introduce me last night, and we're really moving forward on that, and just really have made it my new mission in Congress to try to do what we can about that situation.
And the reason why we need Congress and we need the legislation that you're talking about, is it because a lot of this is just controlled by insurance companies, and a lot of what you're doing is just like, no, these are better things. We need to make sure that Medicare, that insurance companies actually pay for these procedures as opposed to amputations, and fund like these other procedures where you don't have to lose your limbs, or fund the new type of blood test that you can have where you can be checked for colon cancer that aren't paid for in the current economy. Is that really just about trying to get government to pay for the right things that are good for people?
Well, that's part of it, and it's making sure that they are covered through Medicare, Medicaid. A lot of people obviously in this country get their insurance from there. You know what was interesting about my colorectal cancer bill that, I just got passed into law before the end of the year. It was a situation where Medicaid and Medicare weren't covering this, but the federal government was making insurance companies, private insurance companies had to cover it, but the federal government wasn't covering the cost. Now, how are you going to make somebody live up to a law, but you don't have to? It's kind of like do as I say, not as I do, which was absolutely absurd. We were holding the insurance companies to a higher standard, but weren't practicing it ourselves. So it made no sense. And I'm looking at a lot of issues in the medical space that are like that. There are, laws that we're holding, private insurance companies to that we just don't do on the federal side. And that's just ridiculous. So I have my staff doing a whole review of different legislation for private insurance companies to see if we can detect any others that the federal government is not, living up to that, to the same level that have the private insurance companies working at. That's embarrassing. That's just wrong. So, we're working on that. But, the amputation issue is around peripheral artery disease or PAD. And, PAD is a risk for more than 30 million Americans living with diabetes and, 84.1 million living with prediabetes. So, we're working on this whole issue around screening for PAD and it being paid for by Medicare, Medicaid. And so, we're going to continue to work on that. And, as African Americans tend to present, with greater comorbidities, I can never say that word, such as chronic renal disease, obesity, and diabetes, obviously we're typically, have a higher rate of these issues. So, I continue to work on all of those things. Like I said, I have half of them. So it's not only a issue where I'm fighting for the Americans, I'm fighting for my own life as well. So, in that case, you can be very motivated to do the right thing. So.
and even though it really is you wanting to do the right thing for everyone else, right? Like your healthcare is really good, but you're doing it for everyone else who might be in your situation,
right?
Who doesn't have access to the stuff you have.
Oh, absolutely. And when I talk about it, I talk about the initial, finding out about my situation with my foot about 4 or 5 years ago, and I had a really bad infection to the point where there was some discussion of amputation. And the doctor, with the healthcare that I have, looked at me and said, we're going to do everything we can to save your foot. And I always use the analogy that I'm fighting for the black guy that shows up at the emergency room on a Saturday night. And, his foot has been turning blue or purple and hurting him for 3 months, and he finally can't take it anymore. And in the rush of the emergency room and all the people the doctor has to see on the weekend, he looks at this black guy and says, well, your foot is going to have to come off. And then he moves on to the next patient. Everybody should have their doctor say what my doctor said to me. We're going to do everything to save your foot. And that's why I'm in this fight.
And the cool thing about what you did is, and what you talked about last month, is that there's a real common procedure that's inexpensive, that's fast, that could save people's feet, that's been working in Mississippi. You went to Cuba and you also saw what they did there. So I know you talked about this the last time, but can you just run people through that? Because I think they need to hear, like, when you're talking about this, what is that alternative or everything you can that's actually cheaper than amputations? and efficient works, and you can keep your foot.
Well, I mean, there's some medicine and technology that they're using in Cuba that seems to be able to turn that whole situation around, and they've reduced the need for amputations a great deal in Cuba. But Dr. Faccaretti, through his work over a period of time and understanding and taking his time and knowing some of the symptoms for PAD. PAD is very difficult to detect, and you need to go. There are several risk factors, obviously, with anything. So it's just a matter of these situations becoming general practice in a doctor's screening. I mean, all right, you have a minority patient. They're more prevalent to have diabetes and those type issues. So then that means that that's someone that you should check their circulation to see how that is. And so they're just steps that doctors should just take. And in Dr. Faccaretti's expertise and really growing in this area, he has now, I used to say 77, but I was corrected. Now at his hospital in Mississippi Delta, which is, the most disposed to amputations in the country, he has reduced amputations in his hospital by 88% in 4 years.
Wow.
Now, that just means
that's incredible
someone
number.
is paying attention. That's an incredible number. But it goes to just say that he's taking the time in order to identify the issues that people have around this disease.
So just to reiterate that point, that statistic, what you just mentioned, and Dr. Faccaretti's hospital, the person that you brought on last month to talk about this issue, in his hospital, he has reduced amputations by 88%.
That's correct. He is just a incredible individual, and I don't know if we can clone him or whatever we need to do, but he has been noted now for his work around in this area, and just he's gained wide notoriety, and we're working together. I'm on the policy side, he's on the practice side, and this is our mission. It doesn't, this is Civil War medicine.
And Congressman Payne,
Amputations is Civil War medicine.
Congressman Payne, can I judge that?
Yes, Donna?
Yeah, I just want to remind, and I'm getting echo, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. How do we do?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Is that better?
That's yes.
Okay, because I just want to remind that one of the things that the doctor said, that if we knew a doctor in the area, that I don't know, through partnership, through education, but that we can talk to doctors in our area to kind of bring what he's doing outside of his office into our area to ensure that this doesn't continue in terms of amputating persons in our community. And I know, Congressman Payne, did you know Dr. McCampbell, Edwin McCampbell?
No.
Okay, from East Orange. And I know when it came to diabetes, high blood pressure, and he used to be the chief over East Orange General years ago. But I know that was one of his, something he was really, really passionate about was the condition in our community of diabetes, high blood pressure, and things that we can control and change those numbers. And we need to be we need to be assertive in that area to change, to change the direction which our community is going, with high blood pressure and diabetes. So I just wanted to reiterate that Dr. Say his name again, Jonathan.
Faccaretti, right? Like, I think the only reason why I get it Right, is because I have a debater whose name, his last name is Fakarede, and
Okay. But he was like, listen, if you got a doctor in the community, hook us up. We'll make it happen. And I really like that he said that. So we need to keep that in mind as well.
Oh yeah, he's Johnny Appleseed. He's spreading the gospel of this. He knows that obviously he can't do it alone, but it's a matter of getting these doctors that have been trained in a certain way to incorporate this into their practice. With people that are and patients that are predisposed to this. Like I said, that we have a higher rate of it in the Black community. So, when you have a Black patient sitting in front of you, you might want to incorporate that, into part of, your examination of the person, checking their feet and their toes and what their circulation is like, into the lower extremities of their bodies. So.
But here's the issue I got with that, right? When he was on, remember, he was talking about how the insurance companies, right, the pushback that they were getting in terms of, yeah, he's able to, have this 88%, rate of saving people, limbs and so forth. But the insurance companies were more willing to pay to have someone's foot cut off than they were to have someone, get the kind of care that they need. I think that's the real problem.
Well,
Right?
I don't know if it's a matter of them being willing to, as opposed to they've just been used to doing it for so long. And, believe me, they're always looking, they're always looking out of a way not to pay. But, it's just, it's almost like routine with respect to that. So, I think that's really the problem. But I think that's the argument that we go to the insurance companies with. Like, look, if we have these screenings, then you don't have to pay, for the amputations, which, you know, can be costly. So I think that is the argument that we use with, to the insurance companies on how to promote this and come up with some incentives, for doctors to do this and what have you. For the ones that aren't going to go along, um, willingly, we might have to come up with some way to incentivize it. A person that gets their leg amputated, 10% of them die in the first year, and then 25% die within, let's see, what is it?
Like
After
5 years.
25% die. Because, a lot of it is psychological too. When you're down there, you're looking and you've had two legs all your life, and, you look down and there's only one now, can be very psychological, detrimental to your psyche and, the ability to do things, independently that you used to do. That's curtailed to a great deal. You need somebody to help you all the time. I mean,
Yep.
Even to go to
Yep.
the bathroom. So, how demoralizing, embarrassing, that can be if you can't even, go to the bathroom by yourself. It weighs heavily on your psychological health. So, there's a lot that, we need to look at and take into consideration, with this whole issue around amputations. And,
The doctors told him that, he was going to die or, allowed him to cut off his leg. And he
right,
chose not to do that. You know what I
right,
mean? And he
yeah,
was just like, because like you said, it was psychological. He just could not see himself without his leg.
right, yeah,
And what a hell of a choice to make, right? And that, there could have been a real possibility for that not to happen. But the doctors, and I don't know if they knew that, but the doctors that he had wasn't even willing to explore, even have the conversation that you said your doctor had in terms of, I'm going to do everything I can to try to save your leg. No, they said it's either that or you're going to die.
Right.
And you just got to imagine what that psychological conversation is just in and of itself.
Right. And, the mindset.
And that's medical apartheid stuff. I got to say that. I'm sorry. That's medical apartheid stuff. That's stuff that's being concentrated in our community. This is going to happen to you. You're going to die. No, that happens to you, and it expedites you dying, right? And they're willing to pay for that, right?
Right.
Medical insurance is supposed to ensure you're living, to help you while your medical insurance will help you while you're living, not to expedite your death. And that's only, that's part of my human rights rant, but that irks me like nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it to a certain degree, I agree with you. Not necessarily in all cases, but there are quite a few cases where that could definitely play a part in it. With respect to what I have as a member of Congress, there's a cadre of doctors called the attending physicians of the House, and their only job is to keep us healthy, and they're all naval doctors. They're incredible. I've never, prior to me arriving in Congress, I had never seen healthcare like this. They're amazing, and that's their mission. He said that with conviction when he told me that about my foot. It was like he was angry. I'm do everything we can to save your foot. He sounded more excited about me than I was. I mean, but we need, to Muhammad's point, we need all doctors to work in that fashion. And it's a cultural mindset. They're trained a certain way, and that's how they think. But what Fakeretti has done is broken that mold, and thinking in a different manner. And so, we've got to get more people trained in the way he's thinking. But not that he's the only one in the country, but we've got to get like-minded doctors, together and pushing all in the same direction, and then we can tackle this thing. But I think the awareness that I'm bringing to it. I had a woman on speak yesterday, and she says she's been in this work for 30 years, and she's never seen its profile risen this high. And I said, well, you probably had to have somebody that suffers from these issues in order for it to be, given the profile that it has now. And, like I said, a lot of this is personal. I'm suffering from a ulcer on my big toe now. I mean, it just, it comes and goes. I beat it for a few years, and then, unfortunately, I get another one. So, it's a constant battle. But it's healing, and we're going in the right direction with that one. So I'm happy about that. But, there are hundreds of thousands of people that don't have the level of healthcare I have. And what I'm trying to do is level that playing field, that everyone, every doctor should look at it the way my doctors look at it. And I'm going to continue to fight.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
And Congressman, what about hereditary? Is this something that's a hereditary, that's in your family, like, the generation before you, and how do your children have to worry about this?
The diabetes is hereditary to a certain degree. My grandmother died from it. I had an uncle all on my mother's side. I had a cousin who her husband and her 2 children all succumbed to diabetes and died. So it's very, very prevalent on my mother's side of the family. So to that degree, yeah, they're going to have to be, very, very wary and pay attention to, getting diabetes. So.
You sound tired, sir.
I'm sorry.
I said you sound tired. I'm listening to your voice. You sound tired. So,
Oh,
and
I'm all right.
you okay? All right.
Doing all right.
Now, you mentioned earlier that there was a bill that was actually already passed. And sometimes we don't talk about some of those things that were already done. So you said that the blood test for colonoscopy for insurance companies for that, or that, you said that was already passed?
No, my new bill that I just dropped in Congress will allow Medicaid to pay for bloodborne tests for colorectal cancer as opposed to a colonoscopy.
Ah, okay. And that's also important, probably for the exact same reasons you talked about before, right? Because a lot of people don't get, and you were saying, what were you saying?
Well, a lot of people shy away, from colonoscopies because of the, evasive practice that it is, and won't get tested because of that. And what this allows is, everybody's used to getting a blood test. So this will allow more people to go through the blood test to see if they need a colonoscopy, as opposed to them shying away from the colonoscopy. You could tell more people that, look, you need this because there is a detection of colorectal cancer. So it'll allow that many more hundreds of thousands of people to be tested. So I'm pushing for that to become law.
And that's great, because just for me, I know that I need to get the the colonoscopy thing, right? But if that were in my blood test, right? If that were in other words, I consider myself very conscious of my health, etc. But I've been putting off the colonoscopy.
How old are you, John?
I am 52.
Well, you 2 years. Well, you're 2 years behind what they say on the actual, American Doctors Association. But for Black people, you're about 12 years late.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then you push Congressman Payne for us to do it at 40, right? You push for that.
Oh yeah, I've been, but based on all of the research and everything, I've been involved with this over the years. I started looking. I said, shoot, Black folks need to come at 30. I mean, yeah, 30 really. But the American Medical Association finally dropped it to 40. But I've been saying that for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Hey, you know what? I'm doing the commencement speech at my children's former grammar school tonight, right after I get done with this. But my proudest point is that my son, Donald III, is now teaching at this school. So come here, stick your head in here. Say hi to the folks on the station.
Hello. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Donald III.
Yeah.
I did it to him.
And what is he teaching? General studies? What is he teaching?
I teach 4th grade and 5th grade social studies and ELA, so English Language Arts.
All right.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Make a difference in a lot of those young brothers' lives for sure. We don't see many Black male teachers in the school.
Congressman Payne, that's what happens when you hang around Jonathan Austin. See, you start putting that off in your spirit, and now your kids going to become teachers.
Well, no, you know what? It ain't please, John, please. No. father.
I
my
know it's
father
your
was
dad.
a
I know.
teacher.
Yeah.
My father was a teacher, so that's where that
That's
comes
right.
from. Both
Yeah.
my sisters are in education, so I usually kid people. I say, I'm really the failure. I wasn't a teacher, but it's interesting. We all went into vocations that our father had. So, I'm in the public service aspect of things, and they're both teachers. But the third generation of Paynes as teachers, so I'm really proud of him.
Carry on the tradition.
Yeah. And that's Donald the third. I think he told me he was gonna follow in your footsteps when I talked to him one time.
Yeah, that's old Donald III. Poor kid. Did it to him too. But
Congressman
really
Payne, I have a
proud.
question from you, from Diane from Pop. She said, is there a standing committee in the House on health, like the Senate Committee on Health,
Oh yeah,
Education, etc.?
yeah. The Energy and Commerce handles all health related issues. And Frank Pallone from New Jersey is the overall chairman of that committee, which is big.
So there you go. Diane Pop is our faithful listener, and she's always on with the questions. So we really appreciate Diane.
So
Well, at least I know I have two people listening to the Payne Report.
you have so what else is going on that you're working on, that you're interested in, that's
important for us to be ready for.
right, that
Well,
that you're looking at for this week's?
I'm still on Homeland Security and dealing with issues, around the border and all of that. My chairmanship is, with the Rail Committee is really huge. Really a perfect timing for the Gateway Project and for me to advocate for it. So it was no mistake, or that I really fought to get that chairmanship, and it was a tough race. I was up against some formidable members in order to get the seat, but I was able to prevail, and so I'm looking at. I'm really interested in upgrading the rail system in the country and looking at high-speed rail, such as they have in other countries around the world.
And Germany.
The United States has really fallen behind in so many areas where we were the world's leader, and
Exactly.
it's really just a joke now that people say we're the world's leader when we're 13th in this and 20th in that and third in that. But we need to regain our foothold as the world's beacon. And I'm looking at the high speed rail and just upgrading the overall system in the country. So that stuff keeps me busy enough. So I'm just really once again just so appreciative that the people of the 10th district have the faith and confidence in me to continue to send me back. And I'm working hard, and I'm not going to let them down. But it's truly an honor to be their representative in Washington.
Hey, Congressman John, I just wanted to ask him another question before we run out of time. Is there any movement going on in Congress, man, right now around this whole ransomware thing that's going on in the country? Around, because they're not saying whether or not there was this ransom that was paid to, release the hold on gas, and then of course the meat thing, and now, no
Right.
one seems to know what's next. And then of course, there's, I was watching CNBC today, and there's this whole argument that all these CEOs are having, that they are now saying that, of course, the COVID-19 was actually man-made, came out of a lab, and that there's some real fear over the security that the country have, that somebody can drop that kind of chemical weapon and do a test on the entire globe with COVID-19. Is there any movement around that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, it's cybersecurity is coming to the forefront as the real terrorism around the world, and that we feel that all these Russian actors um, are just becoming routine for them to do this. And it's when kidnapping used to be the former way of to get ransom, now um, threatening different companies with the destruction of their you know their cyber world is the new baby being kidnapped. So absolutely, there's a real focus on homeland security, and also this is a threat of national security with respect to some of the areas that can definitely be suffer from this. So we have some of our best people focusing on it, and as we had up until that point, but now we're really focusing in on this ransomware issue, and not that it's not going to happen again before we figure it out, but we really need to let Russia know that there are going to be consequences. If not, even if it's the Russian government, although we do feel that in some respects it could very well be, but for them to harbor these individuals, is not going to be tolerated. So, we're definitely working on it, and has become one of the main focuses, on with our armed services and Homeland Security.
And Congressman, I know you said at last month that broadband was part of the infrastructure that you had submitted for the infrastructure. Is that still moving forward? And then I also
Yeah,
want to give a shout
yeah.
out to my brother Keith, who I got you on the phone. His birthday was this week too. So that you
Okay.
Wait a
guys.
minute. Wait a minute. This Roundtree's birthday today.
Oh,
Oh,
there you go. So happy
That's
birthday,
big
my brother
birthday
Keith.
shout outs. We got to shout out Brother
Happy
Lee
birthday.
Roundtree.
yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Nothing's changed. We're moving forward with respect for broadband. As I stated, my son's a teacher here at his former grammar school, and all of these young people are equipped with laptops and computers and have access to Wi-Fi. We need to make sure that all children across the country are able to you know be equipped with the resources that they need in order to be successful students and keep up with the ability to learn in this country. So it doesn't make sense that a group of kids has to go outside the McDonald's in their community to grab on the Wi-Fi there because they can't afford it at home,
Right.
or it not be available in their area. There's still parts of the country that have dial-up, um, you know, service, and so
Wow.
that's absolutely absurd. That's like from the '80s, and so you know that has to become part of infrastructure, just like the electric grid and the lights come on, and that's automatic. Broadband should be available in that manner as well.
It should.
And just very, very quickly, you talked about high speed internet. I mean, high speed rail. I know that California wants it. Is there anything that we could look forward to? Like, if the infrastructure bill is passed, is there something that'll be in the Northeast corridor or New York to Atlanta? Is like, what are people thinking about in terms of high speed rail? Or what do
Well,
you think about?
President Biden said, in his speech at Amtrak's 50th anniversary in Philadelphia, which I was attended, that if you straighten out about, you know, 10 or 12 curves in the Northeast Corridor, then, it would be available for higher speed rail. They consider 8490 high speed, but shoot, in Japan, they're running at 250 miles an hour. So, we've got a little ways to catch up. But the president, it's on his in his eyesight, and really wants to do it. So, I think when you have we have Amtrak Joe at the helm, these things are going to be worked out. So, but there was already a project in California that's moving forward, and one in Texas, and there's also the Bright Line in Florida that has proposed some. So there are a few different projects across the country that are already in motion. It's a matter of making sure that they're feasible and viable, and then I get my support behind them and see if we can get it done.
All right, thank you so much, Congressman Payne. I know we're coming toward the end. We're always going to ask you that music question in terms of who you're listening to right now, and what's in. I know that you are inspired by a lot of what you listen to. I remember you talking about being inspired by Jay-Z during your first run. So who are you listening to right about now?
Well, I don't know if who I'm listening to as of last night is very inspirational, but I enjoyed it. I was sitting around with my sons last night around the kitchen table, and we were going back, a round robin of different artists that they were listening to or playing or liked, and they weren't familiar with Too Short. So I've been kind of bumping to it later. So I don't know how inspirational that is.
Right.
If you know his favorite word, but that's who I was bumping last night. And they were really surprised because, in Blow the Whistle, they didn't realize, Drake used those lines in some of his music, but they didn't realize it was Too Short that it really came from. So they were really like bugging, like, oh, that's where he got that from. Oh, because they knew all the lines, but they didn't realize that this guy Too Short was really the architect of that. So Drake used some of Too Short's lines in some of his music that they were familiar with. So I introduced them to Too Short last night, which I don't know is necessarily the best thing, but
Daddy, take it. Sure. Go ahead, Daddy Payne.
Congressman Payne, here's the art. It's so funny you say that. I forget the radio disc jockey on BLS and the Afternoon with Sister, but she just said that it's funny how like Nelly and Nelly is the music that's being sampled today. You just said she just said that as I was walking out today, how that they're being like, I guess you say like 80s and 90s music is being sampled for today's music. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing. The more things are new, the more they stay the same.
If we was in the studio, we'd be playing that for you right now.
Absolutely.
I know.
So can't wait till we get back.
Absolutely.
Blow the whistle. That's right.
Blow the whistle. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Congressman,
right.
we want to say thanks, man. Appreciate you coming through, always doing your show, my brother.
All right. God bless all of y'all.
And we'll
right,
have a
man.
good
I always
commencement
look
speech,
forward
sir.
to this Friday.
Yeah.
Yes,
Have a
thank,
good
man.
commencement speech.
yes,
Yep.
and thank you again.
Okay.
All
All right,
right.
Congressman. Peace.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Peace.
All right, that is All Politics Are Local, America's number one political
Number
hip hop
one.
radio talk show.
John, I when Donna started up, I was like, oh no, we ain't
Oh,
gonna
there
end on
you go.
time. Gotta wait until the last minute.
Last
last week-
yes.
Last week she kept us on time, Ed, but last week
Right.
Blow the whistle.
she was like, wait.
That's right, Ed. You wasn't here. I was on them last week.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You were just like, wait. We can't.
I would have been proud of you last week. You was whipping the whip. Pop.
That's right. That's right.
Like, oh,
So,
Well, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do it.
Somebody got to keep track of time.
You know?
right, right. We're
yeah. So I went hard last week. So
But thank you.
how about this weather, man? This weather has been very crazy. I'm like looking, there's like a full sunset about to happen right now. This weather is
You saw the
just so
sun was in Congressman Payne's face, and it was just dark a minute ago.
exactly. Oh my goodness. Oh, did y'all see the T-shirt that I sent over? You have Halsey Street. Have y'all had an opportunity to walk down Halsey Street?
I've not been down there in a few, but like I've been down there not in the last few weeks.
I said this before, Mayor Baraka. The plans, and shout out to Monica Ivor because that's her area. But that downtown is just amazing with the young startups that are down there. It's amazing what you see down there in Halsey. And the T-shirt that I had sent y'all a picture of earlier, that's from one of the stores. It's called 19B. And Zaid is right on the corner of what's the young sister you honored? She was a poet.
Bria, my baby Bria.
Yes. Right on the corner. Their store is right there. Yes.
Well, we are getting ready for the second part for the second hour. And as we know, when we deal with All Politics Are Local, we deal with politics. We deal with elections. We think elections are important. And we always want to try to have the candidates who are running on. There is a state senate. The state senate's up. The assembly's up. Donna knows all of these different players. And we're honored this week to have the current state senator for the 20th district on. We're honored to have Joe Cryan on, and he's running for a re-election because he is the current state senator, and so we have him on for some questions for running. So we only know that he has only a limited amount of time, so we do want to jump in. So thank you so much for being on All Politics Are Local.
It's a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you.
We want to just jump in really with the first question, and that is. When people are running their biography, often they talk about it. They say that it's very important to their values and what they would do in office. How is your biography and things in your biography, how has it influenced how you look at politics, bills that you're supporting and bills that you wanted to pass?
Sure. Well, thanks for the question. And again, thanks everybody for having me. I'm the son of immigrants. My dad is an immigrant from Ireland, and my mother's parents were both immigrants from Ireland. So I was raised in the belief of the American dream. I was raised in Newark, moved to Union in 1984. I have lived in Union, obviously, ever since. So I think you're a product of, when you talk about your bios, it's how you were raised. I was raised I went to Seton Hall Prep. I went to Belmont Abbey College, did some graduate work in Seton Hall University, and then was raised with a work ethic that just said I've had a paper route since I was 10 and worked pretty much, the exception of freshman year in college, freshman first half of college, every year since. I think you're raised with a work value, a belief in the American dream, what it means in terms of not only the opportunity that I was given as the first in my family to graduate college, but what it means in terms of making sure that folks that I have the privilege of living with, my neighbors, have that same opportunity to achieve the American dream. So I think that's the influence for me. I was raised in the belief that people are people, that you do the best you can, and that public service is an honor and a tradition that should be part of your life.
Okay, and does anyone have a clarification question on something he just asked or just said?
No, I just you did and you said it. Forgive me, Senator Cryan. What high school did you go to?
Went to Seton Hall Prep. I walked up.
Oh, you went to Seton Hall. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, in those days, Donna, in fairness, it was on the university campus. So first couple of years, you walk from Sanford Avenue in Newark straight up South Orange Avenue or up Varsity Road to the Prep. And in those days, you walked.
All right, so we grew up, it seems like you grew up in the same communities. Donna, you have a second question you're going to ask him about.
Are we going to? There is currently a bill on reparations, Senator Cryan, and it's a bill. It's a bill to put forth a committee to study
Mhm.
reparations. Can you tell us your position on that bill and how is that bill progressing?
Okay. Donna, let me first off say this. I haven't read the bill. I always like to be upfront about that because I read every bill, which I think is the obligation of a legislator when they're voting on things. That said, I support the concept of it. I support the committee concept. I support the idea of studying it. Where it is, I don't believe the bill's had movement in the Senate or in the Assembly. And I think it's something we need to take a look at.
All right. Are there?
I got a question for the senator. Senator, let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with Newark's CCRB bill that's being held up in the Senate right now?
I don't know if it's being held up in the Senate. I do know there's a lot of debate going on about it. And what we're talking about here is the Civilian Complaint Review Board bill. It's important to the mayor, which makes it important to a whole lot of folks, including me. So, I believe we're going to get there on that, and I believe we're going to get there sooner than later.
So on the CCRB bill, well, does anyone have any questions on the reparations bill? And before we move on to more questions about the CCRB. All right. So on the CCRB bill, we know that it's not moving. I know there's a lot of concern about that. Is there anything that you can do within your own leadership to push the bill? Like what can you do to actually advance it?
You can be a voice for it, and you can understand what the different sides are. And I think the big lock here is about subpoena power and how far that would go or not go. In the city of Newark, as you guys know, Mayor Baraka is very upfront in terms of the idea of having the board and having subpoena power. There's reluctance on that in many other areas. So there's a way to figure that out. There's been discussions without violating anybody's privacy in terms of how we can get there. The mayor has every right, given what I think has been a remarkable job. You all know the stat: no bullet fired in the city of Newark in 2020 by a police officer. They deserve the opportunity to have that, and for the city of Newark to be able to have their own review board. How it works statewide is where I think people are struggling. There's been some discussions in terms of how we can get there. The mayor has endorsed me, and I'm honored to have that endorsement. And one of the things I want to work for to earn that endorsement is to find a way to get this bill to get done.
You spoke about like what some people think about the bill and different ways that different communities are reluctant, and they have certain reluctances about it, specifically subpoena power. What are some of the things that you talk about to try to ease that reluctance? I know you have a background in law enforcement, and I think that you coming down on this particular side of the issue, you might have some arguments that may be compelling. What are some of the things that you say to flip people from one side or the other, or to ease some concerns statewide?
Sure. As I had the privilege of being, we mentioned in bios, I talked about my upbringing, my professional career. I've had the privilege of being the undersheriff and then the sheriff in Union County. I've actually run an internal affairs bureau and run internal investigations. There's a concern about how far will it go? Will people, frankly, in this environment, you all know we're in a tough environment these days on both sides of issues. Will people be, for lack of a better way to put it, guilty before they're innocent and those sort of things? I think people understand, though, when we look at it and when we have these kind of discussions, most folks who wear a uniform do a great job. They do. And the reality of that is look at the city of Newark, no shots fired, crime down. That's a complement of a lot of community work and a lot of police work and a lot of people working together. I think when you look at that, you try to, for lack of a better way to put it, assuage fear, kind of low down, moderate the fears and say, wait a minute, we're not going to have people run away with subpoena power and just try to ruin people's lives or ruin their careers, do things like that. This is a potentially responsible mechanism for how folks can get there and install some confidence. And quite frankly, let's face it, we're at a raised level in terms of confidence in policing. It's not a new thing. And we need to find ways to make sure that the public and citizens have a confidence level in how police work and in how they perform their jobs. I do think that people need to realize police officers, and I had the privilege of leading a force of over 200 men and women, very diverse force, do their job exceptionally well. And we're a source of pride for a community, and I think that's a message that also needs to be put out as part of it.
So do you support the CCRB
I
bill
do.
with
I do.
subpoena
I do.
power?
I think we'll find a way. I do. I think we've got to find a way. I support the concept of it. I support the mayor's vision of it. We need to find a way that it moves forward so that it's the legislature of the state of New Jersey. It's designed to have compromise to make sure that all parties are heard. And that's the position that we're in right now.
Do you think we'll get it done before the lame duck session?
Sure hope so. Sure hope so. I think that's an important message for folks, and I think it's an important message working forward. If I could guarantee it to you, I would, but I can't. But I can guarantee that will be a voice to help move it forward.
If there was one thing that we could do to push that with even greater force, what would that one thing or one suggestion be on your part?
Tell your listeners to call, and if you don't mind me saying so. Legislators still listen, say what you want, but I know folks sometimes think we're disengaged at some level. We're not. My emails come to my phone. I answer my calls in my office. Throw an email out there. Give us your position, especially if you're in district. Those are the ones that matter. Say why it matters to you. And the more that you can, the more that you can talk about what it means on both sides of the issue, as opposed to a hard line on one or a hard line on the other. Neither one of those allow for a dialogue moving forward. I certainly, and I don't know your show very well, and I apologize for that, but please be advocates and encourage your listeners to be advocates. Advocates create change.
That's good.
And we know we're running out of the designated time that you had, and we are. There's a question that we ask everyone, and in that question, you can also combine anything else that you'd like to say, right? So we are All Politics Are Local. We are America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. So who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? And in that, you can add in anything else that you'd want to talk about for the remaining time.
My favorite hip hop group, okay?
Individual or...
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, hip hop.
Yeah, favorite hip hop artist, individual or group.
Okay. For me, it would probably be Eminem, and I need to be very upfront with everybody. I'm not strong on the genre. I know this is going to shock you guys, but I'm not huge on the genre. But I do appreciate the message, the advocacy, and I do appreciate people, the skilled artists that do it, and the growth of it. Although I will tell you that the first song that I ever knew all the words to was the Sugar Hill Gang. All right?
Wow.
So,
okay.
All right. I can still do them, which is an ugly sight for my grandchildren. But obviously, you know what it is. To me, I think the rise of hip hop in terms of the music and the culture has created another voice in terms of advocacy and things that people take another look at traditions and people take another look at other points of view. And I think I don't pretend to be a strong messenger on this, but I know that when you get diverse points of view and you get them in music and you get them in culture, that we're all better for. And that's part of what I like. My son loves a couple of the others, and my daughters love different artists, and that all works together. I think music, by the way, is one of those ways that everybody communicates. All sorts of different music provides all sorts of different messages, and I think that's part of what makes us so special in this particular area of the country too.
So, Senator, if we was in the studio back at Rutgers, we'd play that song for you. And so we know next time we catch you in Newark, that's definitely what we're gonna sneak on and have you do the record.
You got it. Fair enough.
All right.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Or Senator, if you want to close out, man, you can do the hip hop. We can do Sugar Hill Gang to close out.
Wow.
That, by the way, would ruin your ratings no time flat. Okay, I promise you that.
I think the councilwoman is trying to embarrass you, Senator. Right. Watch out now.
I'll tell you what. I'll terrify my grandchildren a little while, and you all can have a laugh later on about it. Fair enough.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out. We'll have to definitely have you back on our show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, you're very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, have a good one.
All right. So the election is on June the 8th. We know that June 8th is important for all of the elections coming forward. We also want to say that we did invite, he's running against someone else who we also invited on the show. And so everyone who's running, right, for that state senate for the 20th district, we absolutely invited on the show. And Donna, if you want to add some words on that, you can.
No, we invited Selena Holly, and he's not, and he didn't come on, so nothing more, nothing less. So, like you said, everybody's invited, and our politics local is very adamant about giving everybody a voice, especially during election time, and we want to be fair and compliant to the rules that everybody should have equal time.
Right. Like what we want to make sure we do is we treat every candidate fairly. We ask questions and follow-ups, but they're just basically things that will hopefully highlight the issues that are important to our listeners, and that the politicians who come on will have a fair chance to speak their mind and be able to clarify, and we'll help them clarify their message by asking follow-up questions. But that's something we always do. Donna, do you want to talk about the election coming up on June 8th?
But I do want to say that what our goal is not to take a position on the candidate, but to inform and educate and engage our listeners to make sure that we have a better audience that is engaged in the political process. Civics is very important, and we need people to be engaged, informed, and involved.
Absolutely.
And how many candidates are running? Do y'all know?
2.
And
for that seat, there are 2.
yes,
Just him and Holly.
yes.
Right.
Okay. And are they both running for re-election?
No.
No, Cryan is incumbent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cryan is
running as an insurgent.
Holly's an assemblyman who is no longer, running for the assembly. He's just running for the Senate seat.
Okay.
That's a big crapshoot for Jamel. That's my first voting district. That's my home district. That's my first time getting a good look at Cryan. And he said the kind of things that we all need to understand about moving into this process. Well, what did he say? Right? Tell your folks to call.
Yeah, he gave some good advice
to be heard. That's important.
And that's exactly what the mayor said yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And the fact that he has the support of the mayor, that's one. And then 2, that he supports the CCRB bill with subpoena power.
Yeah, y'all. I didn't have to say a word. Y'all took care of that for me.
Yeah. And so for me, that's huge.
Zaid was quiet, y'all. What's that about?
Well, that's more you mean. When the elections come around, y'all have basically just dealt with that. So every time everybody can see. I don't have to run my mouth all the damn time.
Right.
Right. You did 3 terms in city council. That means something to us. Right. So we like to see you rock that.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's all that we really did understand the questions that people really wanted to hear, right? Like in terms of
in that 15 minutes, I think we asked them the questions that we think is important to our community and to our audience.
Right.
And we got respectful answers.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I enjoyed that very much. I would have loved to have heard from Holly on this.
For sure. I don't know where my young son is. I got to get on his behind for that.
Yeah.
All right, but
and it's interesting because what did Rhino say? He said no matter he didn't just say something about Sugar Hill Gang. Rhino said no matter what, everybody knows. Did he just say that?
He did.
I thought so. Yeah, he did. Yes.
Yeah. Now, Donna, these races that are coming up, it's June 8th where these elections are coming up. Can you run down what are we looking at next week? Because the elections are Tuesday. You have a little bit of feedback, but it's not as bad as it was before. If there's anything going on in the background,
no, it's really quiet. I don't know what it is. I don't.
Donna, you can start again. I'm just
so let me get up and go out of office. But in the election, I was going to pull up.
You're good.
Okay, and maybe we can I'll send a link over to Mike so we can pull up the sample ballots for Essex County. But this is a race all the way down from the state house, from the governor, all the way down to local elections. In the city of East Orange, you have local, so it's all the way from the state house all the way down to City Hall. And people, and depending where you are, I don't believe there are any public questions on the ballot. In any place that I can think of. But I think there's a lot going on, and we need to be very adamant about engagement and voting. You know, I always say in Essex County, we average about 30% of voter turnout. And in my opinion, that's not acceptable. Everybody has to come out and vote. You have to vote. You have to get involved. Right now, this country is in such I don't know, civic turmoil. I don't know what you want to say. Going back to January 6th, you know, when we all looked at our TVs and seen what was going on down in DC, and then to hear these lawmakers come back and say what you saw with your eyes, what everybody saw with their eyes, are saying it didn't happen. That's to me is so I don't know what to say, but the fact that the vote went through, they're not going to have a commission on it because they're trying to, well, rewriting history is something that has happened forever in the U.S., you know. And the irony of it is that, and I know going back and forth, but just a couple of days ago, we celebrated, or I don't want to say celebrate, the memory of the massacre that happened in Tulsa.
Centennial anniversary of Tulsa.
100 years ago. But Zaid, the irony that, and then the generations of that mayor who is sitting now, I think he had generations, is it Bynum, the mayor's last name, but they have had generations of his family to be in office, serving in a position of mayor in his family, and how Mother Fletcher sat there. I think she's 107 and her brother is 100 years old, that they're still here to tell what happened to them on that day 100 years ago. So she was 7 years old. But there are people that have made a lot of money off of that story, and today they haven't been paid a dime. That is horrible. It's horrible. So, and I go back to say that's all about leadership. It's about leadership and who we vote on and who represents us. So we have to be sincere about engagement and getting involved and going in, and especially women in particular and Black people in particular. Voting has been something that was a hard fought battle for us to be able to do, and for us not to show up at the polls is very disrespectful to who are laying in their graves so that we could freely go to these polls and vote.
Well, listen, next week, you know, we'll talk about this after the show, but I got two folks that can give you, we're going to have a serious talk about reparations, because, you know, Wall Street was hurtfully was not an isolated pogrom of our people.
Right.
It was a typical expression of what racial riots and racial massacres look like for our people over a period of a long time. That particular community, because it was so vibrant economically, that our dollar turned over 19 times within our community, 19 times before it left. Right? It was a very vibrant community. Because it was so vibrant, it got more play than so many other massacres that took place, certainly between that 2-year period between 1919 and 1921. Remember, 1919 was the Red Summer, right? When it wanted to put all these Black men back in their place, coming back from World War I, who were fighting for democracy abroad and wanted some of that at home, right? So it's, you know, so the reparations question is right there in front of us. If there was ever a time to step up on the question of reparations, it is now.
When you were talking before, Donna, when you were talking about the woman who wasn't ever given money for a story, I was thinking not just that, but with what Zay was like, there's an entire community of people who were robbed, killed, and they weren't given anything for it. And massacre after massacre, lynching after lynching throughout the history of the United States. There's a way of underdevelopment that comes when you inflict terror on a community, as was inflicted throughout the country's history. When you mentioned something in the very beginning, Donna, you were talking about the January 6th, and you were talking about the lies that took place or that are taking place, right? Like that mainstream Republican Party is just like, we will ignore what happens. And what always makes me really like uneasy is that we are living in a time where we know that these forms of lies are only precursors to violence. Like these types of lies are like the election was stolen and it wasn't stolen means you're going to try to get a lot of people to kill somebody in these elections, right? So dealing with Tulsa and the history lessons of 100 years ago, I think for people who are African Americans, most of us see this, right? Because we understand that these forms of lies are always told to us, right? Like the Trumpian type of lies where they look and say, hey, no, we didn't really kill that person. No, that person deserved to be lynched, right? Like when they're talking and lying, we're used to it. But we know that those lies are also like murder. I don't think that a bunch of like liberal progressive white people understand that they're being set up to be killed at a certain point by a lot of these right-wing Republicans. Some people in the Congress, they're like, oh, I'm nervous that this right-wing person might be plotting on me. And I'm thinking, based on the way in which they look at truth, like that, how they look you in your face and lie to you, and you know they're lying, they should know they're lying, all the evidence goes against them, but yet they still insist that it's the truth. Well, that's how massacres get justified.
This country is a settler colonial state. That is how they emerged. That is how they came to power, through the use of violence and the distortion of reality and people's humanity to justify their violence, right? And what we're talking about now is a tendency so backwards and so aggressive right now that we're not just talking about racial violence.
Right.
We're also talking about political violence. We're talking about being at the doorsteps of fascism, right? That's why the whole question of beating Trump was so important, but we cannot rest on that and think that these folks are not immobilized. They are more mobilized than ever, particularly around the question of restricting and repressing the right to vote, right?
That's right.
I want to shout out, and I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, I'm a Panther, right? But I want to shout out that delegation in the Texas Democratic Party that walked out of their house to prevent the process from even happening, as the Republicans in Texas were trying to push those repression laws in Texas. They stopped the show. Now they got to go back and fight that, right? But that's how crazy this stuff is, right? And so it's dangerous. And folks who were getting beat up and folks who were getting hurt and folks who were being targeted, it was not just our folks. Michael Pence was on talking about him and Trump ain't gonna see eye to eye on what happened in that day. Well, of course not, because they was calling for his head.
Right, and you can't get whiter than Pence. Like I don't know anybody whiter than Mike Pence.
He white from his head to toe.
And they called for lynching him. I'm going to ask you to clarify. Zaid, I got a clarification question for you. You used the word fascism, and you talked about, because we hear a lot of times people on progressives, they're always calling people fascists. Like, they're like, George Bush was a fascist. They talk about Ronald Reagan was a fascist. Is it something different now? Like, because we hear the word fascist all the time. We hear that political murder. Is there a difference between the way you were using that word like 20 years ago,
10
years ago, and the way we're using it now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Reagan and Bush represented the conservative expression that comes from the right wing, but Donald Trump came in and mobilized the most backwards tendency of the right wing, pushed that to the center, so much so that you had over 70 million people not only vote for him, but are now saying that under no circumstances did he lose, and we're okay with legions of people attacking the Congress, right? Now, if that had gotten further out of hand and we lost that, right, those folks would be at the lever of power, and guess what? And you would see more expressions of violent policing, right? Because they would be in the control of the police wholeheartedly like that. So fascism is a dangerous thing that is beyond just racism and beyond, politics not being nice. It is truly a step away from it is the erasure of the democratic process. That's what it is. It is a erasure of the democratic process. And he who got the guns and is doing it, erases people to maintain that process that they just try to take over. And that's what we're talking about. It ain't nothing to play with.
So you're really like, this is like when the term fascism was used before, you're saying that is not as real as what was going on now, because like now you're talking about people who have actually been justifying in real terms political violence, not against Black people, which we're used to, right? Like, which is commonly
political violence against the democratic principle and practice.
And so what you're talking about is and what Donald was talking about, when you're talking about like the attack on the democratic process, what do you actually mean? And why is that? Why should we be more alarmed? Like everybody, right? Like white progressive, Black people, Latin people, like why should everybody, every demographic group, unless you're of that majority white, I'm okay with this group, why should everyone be particularly alarmed in ways that we haven't been alarmed before? Why all the other talk about fascism with Reagan and the talk about fascism with Bush and the talk about fascism like going back from the 60s now is not the same as now to you?
Because this is the furthest that it has come. This is the furthest that it has come since the McCarthy era, right? The McCarthy era, the fascism tendency was coming through the Congress. It was coming through the Congress in the name of anti-communism, right? Or attacking folks who had any kind of socialist or left-wing leanings that were beyond the liberal parameters of the Democratic Party. And people were being hurt by that, right? People's livelihoods were being hurt by that. People were being locked up. Political prisoner question didn't start with my folks in the Black Panther Party. It goes back further than that. And that particular era was ridiculously dangerous, right? But here it came from a populace who was never engaged in the process, who never had a history with the process. I'm talking about Trump now, right? Was able to use a backwards but populist tendency, the way others like the Hitlers and the Mussolinis have in the past, right? To seize the control of the dialogue almost, right? And almost take control of the level of the state. Look, you just had, I think his name is Flynn, right? A top national security officer just called for, we may need a coup, something like we just did in Myanmar, right? To deal with Biden. We just said that a couple days ago, right? And then, that shit, Jonathan, you're muted. But, and that's like, but that's a mentality that has more traction than it's ever had since the McCarthy days. So it's nothing to play with. And January 6th wasn't abstract. It was real. We all saw it, and it had that thin wall of security, because security wasn't properly mobilized as a part of that scheme, right? If that thin wall of security had not held, we might not even be on the air. That's how that thing can go.
Wait. So and Chris Randall has just come in, and welcome, Chris.
What's going on? How are y'all?
Hey, brother Chris.
Good.
What's going on?
Yep. Well, so here's a question, and Chris, I'm gonna throw you right into it. Zaid, Chris Randall, and I'm gonna just throw you in. I mean, you love making this. Is the same conversation we have a lot. But brother Zaid, Chris Randall and I always have these conversations where he's like, there's no difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, right?
I said what I said.
Right, and he says it strong. Like, there's no difference. You shouldn't have voted one way or another. Didn't matter. We do have a few minutes before the next segment. Can we get into that a little bit?
Look at Chris smirking.
What you got?
No, I'm just like, you're like, there's no difference between the two. Like,
well, I told you. I had.
Hey,
of course,
where DJ Rhino at? I keep hearing them Jay-Z lyrics in my head. Light, dark, full, real. Rich Poe, House Field. I don't know. Hey, y'all. Hey, I thought we was coming on today to celebrate the Breathe Act getting passed. No? Oh, sorry. Didn't happen? Oh, hell. Oh. You know
Well,
what?
let's do it this way because I already made my position clear on that, right? But
You know what?
let Donna answer the question. Let the elected one answer the question. Was there or is there a difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Madam Donna Kerry? And I'm not.
Donna K is absolutely. There's a tremendous difference. One, even if we go to the simplicity, the one is more the education level of one versus the other. One is educated and one is not, and one, and I don't know who. Yeah, Chris, stop it.
Chris.
She put a mama face on you, Chris.
But Chris, like, do you have anything to say? I mean,
that's all we got. That's all we got. One went to school and one didn't. That's all we got.
I said, I give you one. I tell you this in the most simplistic way. No, they both went to school.
Yeah, the school of segregation, Jim Crow. No, I missed it. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I thought Biden was championing it. What? That was him that said we need to have that commission on Charlottesville, and we also need to have that commission on January 6th. He said we should do. No, wait, didn't say that. You know what it was? It's the access that Black media is having to the white. Oh, no. Black media can't come in.
Black media can't come in where?
Roland Martin said that not me.
Roland Martin. What did Roland say?
Roland Martin had a whole segment on his show yesterday and today about all the broken promises made to Black media that they would have access to the White House in a way they did not in the last 4 years. And unfortunately, that has been a check that's blank and not good.
I'm gonna go back up. And he did this yesterday. He said that the access for Black media is still limited.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go listen to that.
Because if you let Ed Riley in the room, Ed Riley gonna say, Joe, we the reason you got elected, Joey. What you gonna do, Joe? He ain't trying to answer that question. Because he the same guy. In your lifetime, in all of your lifetime, he has supported segregationist policies. You understand? His racial record is worse than that of Donald Trump, particularly on things like criminal justice reform. You understand? Which is why he got the cop as the vice president.
That's right. The cop that beat his behind in the debate.
What she do? That busted. You said that beat his ass. Beat him. Excuse me for cursing. I'm sorry. That beat him up in the debate. Yeah.
Joe Biden was on his way to the outhouse.
So this what kills me, Zahid.
And came and said,
saved him.
I know Joe, and I need y'all to hold up on all that stuff.
Well, this what kills me. This what kills me. When I say the cop is the vice president because they the same person. Everybody skip that part and go, "Whoop, that she did good in that debate." How about she the police? How about if I was a segregationist? You know who I had? Somebody who has a track record of not liking Black people. What demographic did Kamala Harris help him win?
I didn't hear you. What did you say? What did she win?
There's no demographic that Kamala Harris, based on the primary, ever helped him get. There was no demographic that swung in his direction because of her. Because he could have Stacey Abrams, but then he would have to not be like Donald Trump.
You're saying you think he could have had Stacey as his vice president?
She said she wanted the job.
Stacey said she wanted the job?
Yes.
I don't recall. Go ahead.
No, that's true. She said that multiple times, especially in the beginning.
She
did. Okay.
That's who we should have. That's who we should have chose. Ain't nobody loving Joe Biden.
Said,
I didn't know. Go ahead.
I'm saying if I played tapes of Vice President Harris talking and Mike Pence talking, it'd be the same thing. And who gets along with Donald Trump? Mike Pence, because who would get along with somebody like that? Kamala Harris. It's easy to lock up people you don't have to care about. I'm gonna just leave that alone.
It sure is.
I'm gonna say that Douglas Emhoff and Bill Clinton look a lot alike. I'm just saying. I said what I said. Now, I understand nobody's going to answer any of these arguments. I get it. It's all politics and local where we skip stuff. I understand. It's all good.
Wow.
I got it.
Well,
I understand.
Chris, like, in all fairness, you answered nothing about what Zaid said, right? Like, so I mean,
he didn't say anything. He said I made my position clear.
All right, well, I mean, Zaid, I'm just saying, Zaid, he said Chris Randall just said you didn't say anything. So can you answer Chris Randall on this? I don't instigate. That's not what I do.
I let everybody know that Trump needed to be stopped. That Trump needed to be defeated, right? That Trump represents, the most backwards and extreme dimensions of the racist right wing. Down Joe Biden and was nobody's favorite. Concerned, but he does represent.
By not favorite, you mean like
somebody that's not.
By not favorite, you mean like he's a soft white nationalist.
Well,
that's a term that we need to play ball with. We might be able to play with some of that. He has a white nationalist record to be sure, and he had to be rehabilitated by the black community through Joe Clyburn because of that, and his inertia. The fact that he was getting his behind beat, and they had to stop this liberal / socialist from stealing the show, but Trump represents the most backwards and the most out tendency of the racist right wing, and that's I think we.
I'll make sure I hear this right. You're saying
the differences are differences of degree.
Oh, okay.
Biden's history is Biden and Clinton are like, listen.
So it's like a
I would tell the folks, Chris, listen to me. Yeah, you running your mouth. Listen, right? Yeah. 1990, 1991, I tried to alert the black community here about what Bill Clinton was doing and to not support him because Bill Clinton walked point for the right wing in the Democratic Party. And one of his top boys was this old joker Joe Biden. Joe was right there all up in that. Right, they're two sides of the same coin, but come, rubbing Negroes' heads and playing the saxophone. They went for his bullshit, and he represents nothing, No, but
I'm good. I just want Zaid to talk right now. He sounds like the guy. He's preaching good gospel right now. I'm gonna go.
Look, can I just? Can I just?
Go ahead, Donna, please.
No, I just wanted to read this statement. Can I read the statement by Stacy?
Sure.
Good. You say yes, Jonathan?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So real quick, experienced politicians know that there's a right way to answer questions about pursuing higher office, be demure, redirect, convey vague interest while insisting never to have given it serious consideration. But Stacey Abrams does not give the expected answer when I ask if she would accept an offer from former Vice President Joe Biden to serve in his 2020 running mate. Yes, I would be honored. Abrams says, I will be an excellent running mate. I have the capacity to attract voters by motivating typically ignored communities. I have a strong history of executive and management experience in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. I've spent 25 years in independent study of foreign policy. I am ready to help advance an agenda of restoring America's place in the world. If I am selected, I am prepared and excited to serve. So, yeah.
She even said I would make America great again and couldn't get a show. I'm gonna move on. Yeah. We're good here. I'm good here.
But do you I mean, to your point, Jonathan, do you think that Kamala attracted a wider audience than Stacey would have?
Does Joe Biden win the election without Georgia?
Say that again, Chris. I'm sorry.
Does Joe Biden win the election without Georgia?
Does he win it without Georgia? Not at all.
No. Okay. So Stacey Abrams made that happen.
Yes.
I'm done. I ain't got nothing else.
Like
what was you about to say, Zaid? I'm sorry, because you were about to say something.
I forgot that damn quick.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
Like, I mean, I in terms of what Zaid was talking about earlier, And then to answer your question directly, I agree with Chris on this one thing. I don't think Kamala Harris brought anything. I think Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are the same candidate. I think they have the same appeal, the same appeal for the same demographics. When Kamala Harris ran, Black people didn't vote for her. We stepped back. She didn't come close to the nomination. She dropped out before Iowa because she didn't get Black support because her record as a DA in California was kind of mixed. She did some good things. She did some things that were not so good, right? Like or like, you know, and those things we've talked about on the show before.
She locked a
lot of brothers up.
Right. She locked up innocent people, wasn't supporting marijuana legalization earlier, locked up Black women for truancy, for their kids being truant. So I mean, there were a lot of things that were negative that were in that record that people knew about, which is why she wasn't really supported by Black people in the primary. Right. When she became vice president, clearly you had all the pearls and kicks and all the other stuff, and there was a lot of identity politics. But in terms of people coming out for her, like I think that she had very similar demographics as Joe Biden, with one exception, and I think that she had a lot of Hillary Clinton voters. Kamala Harris was an incredible fundraiser, probably the best fundraiser in the Democratic Party. And why she was probably the best fundraiser in the Democratic Party at that point, because she had a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters, right? Pantsuit Nation was firmly behind Kamala Harris from everything that I read, right? So the Pantsuit Nation, which was the Hillary Clinton supporters, which were a series of powerful white women like all over the country who were very upset in terms of how Hillary Clinton was treated, really gathered behind Kamala Harris, and with money and with influence, and that was my understanding of it, where that came from. She wasn't a Black community candidate. She was a candidate that appealed to the vision, right? Like, in other words, when you said people like they want a Black woman, and I was like, you need to say which one you want, right? Because if you don't say because I always push back against that.
You know, they ain't the same.
Right, because the senator from Massachusetts, the white woman senator from Massachusetts, was a lot better for Black people on the explicit things she said.
So let me get this right. I have to make sure I heard it right, because I'm a little politically ignorant. You choose vice presidential people to run as your running mate who don't draw any of the demographics who you know going to swing the election in your direction. That's how people pick.
Well, I mean, there was money. No, there was a lot of money. Kamala Harris was an incredible fundraiser. She had a lot of money, right? Like, I'm just saying she was not the Black people candidate, right? Like, she wasn't chosen for us. She was chosen that would pacify us because she's a Black woman, and there are a lot of us who get caught up in identity politics.
I want Chris to appreciate this. This is what I was going to say earlier, right? Is that him and I both comes the background party, right? There was a split amongst the comrades, right? Half of them, but where Chris is at, like the hell with both of them, and half of them like Trump got to be stopped at all costs.
Right.
I fell in with the half that says Trump got to be stopped at all costs. I understand both sides.
How has Trump been stopped? From a Black perspective, how has Trump been stopped? What is that?
You know what it is? Can I say?
Not have the reins of state power.
Absolutely.
Rhino. I want to say something real quick. You know what it is? You know what it's like? For me, at least, because I put my vote in that whole thing with Biden and Trump and all of that. You know what it was for me? You know what it seems like? It's like you want to play chess with your opposition, or you want your opposition to just flip the board over. You know what I'm saying? Trump was the one that was just going to flip the board over. He didn't give a damn about the game. He didn't give a damn about the strategy. He didn't give a damn about the pieces that played part in the game. He just flipped the board over. You know what I'm saying? Biden, we already know he's an opposition. That's why we playing chess. He's on the other side. You know what I'm saying? So we know he's an opposition, but we want to play chess. Let's play chess and win this war. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no winning. There was no winning. There was no strategy. There was no nothing. There was no nothing. There was no nothing. No battle. No nothing dealing with Trump. You know what I'm saying? He was just crazy, and he was flipping the board over, and we had to get the crazy dude out so that we can play chess with the real opposition. You know what I'm saying? Because we already know. Like when I put my vote in, I already knew Biden wasn't going to be that. You know what I'm saying? I knew Kamala wasn't going to be that. Kamala, whatever. I knew it wasn't going to be that. You know what I'm saying? But we had to get the crazy dude out, man, so we can get back to business. You know what I'm saying? we know this. We like I said, we know what Biden was going to be about. That was my vision of it. Is that, look, man, we playing chess. We trying to play chess. You know, we got an opposition to deal with. Let's deal with the opposition the way we deal with oppositions. You know what I'm saying? And get this cat out, because he flipping the board over. We can't even get the game on. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was for me.
Yeah, and what I would say is that on those lines, and Chris, you always like to ignore this, but the big difference between the two is that we know that all the activists are going to have to push and fight for things like student loans, like reparations, like all of the things that we want to fight for that are not included, but the debate starts at a different place. Because if Trump got reelected right now, all the people in urban areas all over the country would be talking about layoffs in Board of Education, layoffs with teachers, layoffs in city government because of the first stimulus bill. Like, we knew if the Republicans had the stimulus bill, they were going to bleed the cities. They said that blatantly. They said these blue states had closed too long, and the reason why they're bankrupt is and why they need federal money is because they were irresponsible. So we know that there are a lot of teachers who would be out of jobs, who would be unemployed. We know there are a lot of people who work at City Hall who would be unemployed, right? We know that that would be a crisis that we would be dealing with right now that we are not dealing with, because Newark just got like $85 million to spend, right? Like, we know that their Board of Education across the country got money in order to be able to deal with this. We know that even in the infrastructure bill, that's more progressive than pretty much any bill that's been passed. If it is passed, it is more progressive than any bill that would have been passed since the Great Society bills, right? In terms of spending that much money. And we know that is not what Trump will do. And so when you're like, there's no difference, you know, all the things that Zaid was talking about and the things that Rhino was talking about, and that you had a flame-throwing fascist, you had the Joker as president, who was just putting direct, actual white supremacists who said they were white, who practically said they were white supremacists in power in organizations that were wreaking certain types of havoc. It's different than having debates against somebody who actually, and I love the analogy that Rhino put, that isn't flipping the board, but that you have to work, that your people, the people who are like the mayor, like the activists, right? Like even to the point of saying that public health that violence is a public health issue, right? Biden said that. And Biden is pushing policies as violence is a public health issue, which is something that we didn't even expect from Biden. So the debates that we are having to fight are just starting at a different place, right? And I think, and you don't think that's important. I know you don't think that's different, right? But I think for people who do the work, I think that's why Zaid was like, he's got to go, right? Because Zaid is in the trenches. He does the work. He does the anti-violence work that was benefited from, right? So I think that becomes the real difference between your position and his position, which both acknowledge that, you know, Biden as somebody who is not perfect, right? Both acknowledge him as somebody who we need to, you know, he's going to have to level a lot of protests. There are going to be a lot of issues we're not going to disagree on. He's not going to pass things that we want passed. He might not be able to pass things that we want passed. But in terms of saying that there's no difference, I think ignores reality, and that there are practical problems that we don't have right now, which is dealing with massive unemployment because City Hall had to shut down, or because the Newark Board of Education had to shut down, and the millions of dollars in funding that they have now. I mean, that's just the first tangible difference. And if you go to the infrastructure bill, there's a lot more there too. So I don't think it's just as I'm with Zaid on, like, you know who he is, you know what his past is. Politics isn't about trust or having somebody that you love. It's about somebody who you can fight better against, that you can go to the streets and there'll be a different level of response, right? That might not be the same as I'm going to get the ATF and all of these other people to nationalize and kill you.
And people can evolve, correct? People can, you know, evolve. People can not be who they were 30 years ago or 20 years ago.
Jesus, she just said white people is going to change Jesus.
I said,
Jesus, precious Lord Jesus.
Donna, I know you ain't talking about Trump. I hope you.
oh no, I'm
Lord
you know
Jesus.
that no, but here's the irony about that. I'm
Lord.
talking about Biden now. He's evolved on some things, but here's the what you just said. Trump evolved because Trump was a straight Democrat. He was a straight, but I do believe that Trump actually said that I think he actually said that he would have. I think he actually said that he would have to run after Republican. Yeah, but I think Trump actually said he would have to run as a Republican. I believe. I think I read that somewhere that he said that to win he would have to run as a Republican. But no, I was speaking about
Trump is a son of a Klansman.
Yes.
Right.
Hold on, wait. Before I want to make sure I want to make sure I write down this whole list. Okay, and when you finish this list, we're gonna see the differences. Okay, go ahead, Klan.
No, he's a son of a Klansman that mobilized that, who just recently said he's going to be reinstated as president come August, because he believes that there'll be some other kind of action by somebody's, right? And I guess it's getting ready to just come on, so we need to wrap this up, right? Somebody's are going to do something to put his slimy behind back in office. Right? And not even Joe Biden that did that, boy.
Well, so we're going to continue this conversation, and Randall, we're definitely going to continue this conversation because I think that it's actually very important. I think that when you're talking about getting people involved in the political process and talking about politics, although sometimes I know you're scratching your bald head. And it's like my bald head too. It's like it's frustrating, but it is.
Battles are won and lost in detail, said the great Fidel Castro.
Right. So we will definitely be having these conversations again. However, we have an incredible guest on tonight. We have Lisa Chowdhury. She has a yes. So we have Lisa Chowdhury on, and we have Teddy Martinez.
Teddy was there.
All right, we got Teddy Martinez on as well.
Is Casey coming on?
And we are. I'm just checking the background right now, and no, we just have these two who are on, and the work that you're doing. And
Jonathan, I think Lisa was about to say something when you asked about. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay.
KC might be running around because we have a big event tomorrow. So we're trying to get some of the technical stuff figured out. So he might be out and about.
Well, let him do what a field soldier's supposed to do in the field. Right? And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted Lisa to come on today. Because it's interesting that Lisa, you just walked in on Teddy, you just walked in on the discussion we were talking about. Some of the differences between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and Jonathan was just raising the whole question how certain resources have become available for folks who do the kind of work that we do in the community around trying to check this violence. So the timing of your arrival is right, because those are some of the things that I wanted us to talk on while you were here in this discussion. Right?
But give them a proper introduction because they're awesome here, right? But I was just reading about some of the stuff they were doing, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And I love the fact that they're from Patterson, and Nork is doing a lot of different stuff. So Zaid, give that introduction the way you do.
From the matrix that is known as reimagining justice, and I'll let her blow that up, right? Emerged another organized outlet that is doing hands-on, on the ground, important work around violence interruption and violence reduction that we're proud to uplift. That is the Patterson Healing Collective. And Patterson has had several, recent expressions of that, but this one is quite engaged. It's gotten out there, got some good work, a part of some larger work that we're all trying to work together on in the state, and have a big event tomorrow also. A big event, particularly given the fact that we're trying to eke our way out of COVID cover, that may do a lot to help restore some of the resilience, the social resilience in our broader community. Led by the great Liza Chowdhury, and has been doing some good work for quite some time. Got a tough staff of brothers and sisters who walk the walk, right? Teddy's got his own profound history of those of us who've had to survive these things called the streets, right? To come back to the streets once there's a problem, then come back to the streets as a part of the answer, right? Those are great stories. Those are great stories to be told, but there's stories that are being told in the process of creating more stories of redemption, restoration, and healing. So I wanted her to just have a few minutes with us tonight to talk about the great work of the Patterson Healing Collective, the matrix from which it springs, reimagining justice, the event that they've got coming out, and what we all need to be doing to help move this kind of work.
So what is the Patterson Healing Collective?
So I'm going to start off, and then Ted, you could join in. All right. So first, I just want to acknowledge that we have an amazing team of a collective that has been doing this work in Patterson for so many years. So what Patterson Healing Collective is the hard work that so many people in the community have already been doing. And what we basically did is just combine forces. So I would say that we're Voltron now, right? So we have Teddy and Barbara, who have been doing great work in Patterson around reentry and homelessness. And then we have Casey Melvin, Rashawn Dixon, Quan Hargrove, that were doing great work in the community as far as anti-violence work. And then I have these young, youthful case managers that are credible messengers. Some just came home last year, some gun violence victims themselves, some college students that graduated recently, so, some young people that I mentored throughout their lives, and they've joined under our umbrella. And it's just so magical when you come to our office, because to see people united on a common force to make this city better, which we love so much. Patterson is like, I've been working in Patterson for about 14 years. I'm from the state, which is like the little cousin of Patterson. But I've worked as a juvenile probation officer for 10 years. And after I left, I just knew that I wanted to see how I could continue to make sure that this violence issue was resolved. Because if you know about Patterson, Patterson is about 8 or 9 square miles. And where the violence is mostly concentrated, it's about 6 blocks. And me and Teddy, we've been doing a lot of kind of mapping and data and things like that. And it really is just 6 blocks where so much hurt is happening, so much concentrated poverty is happening, so much gentrification is happening. A 1-bedroom apartment in one of the worst parts of Patterson is $1,800 now. So we know what's going on, right? And structurally, the inequalities that are going on. 6 blocks. Right, Ted?
Yep, it's just 6 blocks. Seems like, I was just talking to a kid today, and he told me that he feel like he's in Baghdad in these 6 blocks. And but tomorrow, we try to change that narrative and try to get them to come together and try to get them to walk, a path where, it hasn't been done in some time now. So I think that's what our strive. Our goal is for tomorrow program.
Ted, can you tell them about yourself? Because I don't think that I'm going to do due diligence of introducing Ted, right? So I have a whole bunch of leaders on my team, all right? I'm just the person that's on top right now, but I'm so fortunate because everybody on my team is so talented, and that's why I think that when we hit the ground, it was like boom. Like I said, we're Voltron. So Ted, I don't think I'll do due diligence to give you an introduction, but please, and also as far as Patterson Healing Collective is concerned, Ted is actually considered the HVIP coordinator, so he's basically the one that is the main person to arrive at the bedside once a person gets shot. Even tonight, as we're planning this event out, the work never stops. Somebody got shot tonight, and I had to have 2 team members go out to the hospital and make sure this young person is okay and feels supported. So Ted, if you can just introduce yourself and just say the work you do now.
So, I'm a long time Patterson. Tonight, today I actually, Lisa introduced me as being an HVIC coordinator. Today I'm actually a party planner, event planner, because we've been running around all day long trying to make sure that we tie up some of the loose ends for tomorrow event. And we did get the call tonight, right? And when we first got the call, it's great. it's definitely in one of the areas that we're going to service tomorrow. And that's one of the areas that I grew up in. And fortunately, I used to hustle in that area, and then I moved over to the projects, and then I left the projects, and then, you know, when we went to the projects, I became, you know, a little big time because, you know, of course, we all know naturally how the projects roll. So myself, I ended up becoming justice involved where I served 15 years. I was sentenced to a life sentence. Out that life sentence, I fought for my freedom. So being able to come back home and to be able to do this work is definitely a blessing to me. And this is my way of somewhat paying it forward. And sometimes I still trying to find out, you know, I still feel like that I'm not doing enough, or we can't do enough with all that's, you know, that's going on in the city. But we do have a very charged up leader in Liza, who constantly, you know, who's been I can say a blessing to this type of work in the city, because prior to this program, as she stated, that we were doing this work, and me personally, I was a victim. You know, I was shot 13 times. Where I was shot on 2 different occasions, and we didn't have anything to offer, you know, the victims other than conversation. So now we have actual resources that we can offer victims and services as far as mental health counseling and so forth like that. So as Lisa stated, we have a dynamic team of young people that keeps us young, and they challenge us. That's the beauty of our team, our young people. They challenge us every single day.
Oh yeah, they're gonna do that.
Not only they challenge us, they keep us up on the technology. So that's a beautiful thing too, because, you know, the older you get, the less you desire to be. I know me, to be a part of the technology. I want to keep the paper, but they be like, no, we can't do it. We got to do the SharePoint and all that stuff. So we have a dynamic team of young people. I think that's the gist of it. I think the beauty of it, like, to this event in itself, I could sum this up with this event right here. It's kind of ignited something in me, because, like, as I stated, being a gun survivor myself, I feel like that I'm being honored as well as we're honoring the ones that over they wear orange. How?
Let me help you out for a second, Teddy. I want to let everybody know that what we're talking about also in the context that this takes place, and this is Gun Violence Awareness Month, right? And then there's things happening, you know, and you know, all over the country. Your sisters from the North Anti-Violence Coalition are working with the family tomorrow in City Hall at 1 o'clock. So as you talk about tomorrow, let's set it up for us, right? Time, place, theme, you know, hours, all of that, and then go back in.
All right, so I think that what we have, Lisa, if you want to chime in or you want me to do
Sure.
it.
So really quick, and then I want you to talk, Ted, especially as a survivor of violence yourself. I think it's important to get your lens in all this. So tomorrow is, so right now it is Wear Orange Week. This is the week that, you know, people around the country, especially ignited by Moms Demand Action, that we put an end to gun violence, right? And think about gun safety. And finally, as a national call, that we need to have more stricter gun laws, and also invest more in survivor-centered work. So that's kind of why we wanted to make sure that even though we only had 2 weeks to plan, we wanted to do this. In Patterson, recently, some of these incidents that we're having are not just one victim at a time. Like just 2 weeks ago, we were called to an incident that seven people got shot. One person actually lost their life. And the time before, it was another 7 people. Another time was 5 people. And this is all within a span of 2 months. So we were like, you know what, we got to do something, like something crazy and something explosive. And what can we do? And we were like, this is a perfect time. Nationally, it's Wear Orange Week. It's summertime. It's getting warm. It's not getting any better. It's getting worse. We got to do a cry out. We got to tell our young people, please, we want you to live. What do you need from us? How can we support you? So right now, for tomorrow, what we're going to do is a concert. So we went to every neighborhoods that are beefing with each other, and we put the ploy out. Can y'all perform under one stage? I ain't got to be best friends. I don't even got to perform together on stage, but be in the same venue so we can start having these conversations about healing and peace. Can we do that? And my ploy to them was that I can try to get some record execs out, which we're having. And the other ploy was that if you guys agree to do this, then we can try to lobby for more healing-centered stuff around you guys, have more resources. So if you guys agree to do this, then we can push forward with this advocacy. And they agreed. That's what's powerful. They agreed. and they're actually the ones leading this. Just to give you a quick background of how this even came about, we have a young man that is a survivor of gun violence. He recently got incarcerated. He actually came to us because he had a parole violation, and his parole violation is because he stopped going to parole because he was getting shot. 4 times he got shot at just last year, and he was afraid to go to parole.
I'm sorry, Lisa, you say he was getting shot going to parole?
Yeah, well, he was getting shot. He got shot at 4 times. The reason he didn't want to go to parole is because they go to the what is it, the day reporting center, and they have to stand outside.
They attend the same
because of COVID.
The parole mandate.
Yeah, because of COVID, they were having him wait outside, and he was too scared to wait outside, so he just stopped reporting. So because he got shot in July. Then he got violated in September because he stopped going to parole because he didn't know who would be out there. He didn't know if some of the people that shot at him, might be on parole as well. So he just stopped going. But he always kept in contact with us because we started our program in October. He enrolled. It was hard to get him to the office. However, when he wanted to turn himself in, he knew he wanted to do it through us. So we supported him through that process because he didn't want, the Warren squad to come in and like harm him in any way. He was a big kid. He was considered a high-ranking gang member. He knew some of the consequences he would face if they try to get him, right? So we were able to broker that conversation, and he was able to actually get some time served. And the parole officer actually wrote a decent kind of recommendation to the parole board where they said he is a victim of violence, and we helped kind of have that conversation. He's a victim of violence. He should not be violated for something that is a part of trauma. And in that letter that the parole officer wrote, surprisingly, he put that he did report regularly until he became a victim of violence. So it goes to show the importance of this advocacy work that we're doing and changing the mindset around what we see as victims of violence. And the reason I say that story is because I want to set that up for this concert. He called me from jail while he was locked up, and he said, Liza, I got an idea. You know what we need in Patterson? We need to have a concert. Everybody likes music. If you get every hood to come together and do music, it'll be fine. It'll get a lot better. And I was like, really, you think so? He was like, yeah, you know what? I could set that up. So there was a rapper that was in jail with him. So he connected me with that rapper who's Fabio Foreign. And then Fabio Foreign was able to connect us to his whole camp, his nonprofit organization. And then that nonprofit organization was able to help us start facilitating this idea around a concert. They came to visit us. We're going to get Hot 97, who's next, out tomorrow. We're going to get a couple of, record, marketing people out tomorrow. And I say that because the power in what this work is, right? This young man, while he's facing, incarceration, he's still thinking about how he can help us because we impacted him in that way. Like it ignited something in him. And so I just want to set that stage for how this event even came out, because it came out because he kind of planted that seed in our head. And here we are. It's going to happen tomorrow. A whole concert where we got kids from all over Patterson, communities that have been beefing for the last couple of years, and they're all going to be under one roof. And it's exciting, but we definitely have to guarantee their safety. We asked the Nation of Islam to be there to provide security. We have us there as credible messengers, and community-based public safety there for security. And we asked community policing to kind of be in the periphery so that we can ensure the safety of these young people while they decide to display their art to the city. The beauty about this is that not only will we have a concert, we're also going to live stream it in all the hotspots where there's a lot of violence. So basically, while they're doing their concert, we're having block parties in each of their neighborhoods, and they're going to see the concert happening live stream on a jumbotron. So the community gets to see them performing together. Before that, we're going to have a moment of silence. We're going to have a presentation to honor all the people that we've lost to gun violence, and have a prayer. And, really do that ask. Akila's going to be there. Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition is going to be there. Our partners in New York are going to be there. Hopefully, Keisha's group, somebody's there. Everybody's joining this.
I'll be there representing.
Thank you. Yay. Okay, so we're going to go. This is going to be so big for us. I think that shifting energy is important, right? And there's been a dark cloud over our city for a while now, and we're tired of it. We're tired of seeing our young people hurt the way they are.
Lisa, hold on. Lisa, I want you to hold up for a second because something just happened. I don't know. folks realize that I want the audience to appreciate what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For folks who are listening for the first time or who have forgotten because we're not in the studio, this is All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop talk show. Now, you just heard a story unfolding on how hip hop and performance art is being used in the community setting to do what? To make peace and to heal tensions, right? So those are the conversations that we try to drive through this medium, and those are the conversations that we use this medium to try to drive these conversations through the community. So I just wanted to contextualize that for everybody that's listening. Go ahead, as you were.
Yep. Yeah. So tomorrow, I'm just overwhelmed because I honestly, right, Ted, I want to have a concert, and my team made it happen. I don't know how they made it happen, but you need a Ted, you need a Barbara, you need a Casey on your team. You need an Adam, you need a Samaya, you need a Sasha, a Matthew, a Jason, a Jessica, a Tamika, a Rashawn, a Hargrove, a Jacqueline on your team, because it's a huge ask in 2 weeks to do this. So tomorrow we have about over 20 artists that are going to come onto one stage. We had our first Zoom this week.
Where? You haven't said the where and when. Both of y'all.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the where is 100 Hamilton Plaza. Now, invite only. Like I said, we have to guarantee their safety, so we haven't opened it up to the whole city. So it's invite only. And that's why we haven't put the address on the flyer, because we only want the artists. Yeah, right. We only want the artists and their friends, and we're vetting who's coming, because like I said, the reality is there's still tension, right? And we want to keep everybody safe. However, the beauty of it is that we're gonna have 5 block parties, one in on Presidential Towers, one on Carroll Street, one on East 18th and Park Avenue, and another one on 10th Ave, and one on North Main. So all these 5 neighborhoods have gone through a lot of trauma in the last year, and we're trying to give them some love. And they're going to have these big jumbotrons where they're going to be able to see performers from their neighborhood perform live stream.
And Lisa, it's important to note that how this happened was that prior to even the individuals promoting it, that we were already out in the community doing the community work and the groundwork and building and gaining these young people the buy-in. And the buy-in with these young people was extremely important. And the excitement that that you see in them right now, it's like it's never been seen for. These kids are super excited about this concert, even though that they know that they're going to be on stage with they're going to be on stage with they're going to be on stage with people that that they was beefing with for years. So they entrust us. So I think that's the thing that we want all the cities to understand, to try to get to understand, is that I think that to be able to be that trauma-informed individuals or agency, so you can broker those type of relationships with those individuals that's beefing against each other, and bring something like this together and see the results.
And let's back up a minute, if I can, because I want to unpack that story about that brother who y'all helped, who was on parole and was being violated, the whole thing. Now, you said he enrolled in your program, right?
Yeah,
you got to tell us about the program. What are the programs of the Patterson Healing Collective that folks need to appreciate?
All right. Well, I'm gonna let Lisa do that, but I'm going to say this: that this young man was being shot everywhere he go in the city. He was being shot at. And he didn't trust it. On the day that he decided that he wanted to turn himself in, he called Lisa, and then he turned himself in. And the rest is this is how we got here. Lisa, you want to describe the program?
Yeah, so we're the first hospital-based violence intervention program in Passaic County, where basically what happens is when the hospital gets a gunshot victim, they call our hotline, and from that hotline, we arrive at the bedside of the victim. And we basically start having these conversations. First about, support. Do they need any counseling? We try to reach out to the families, because oftentimes there's police in the room, and it becomes very volatile sometimes, right? So we want to broker those conversations around healing and medical help, and make sure that their families know that they're okay. After that, when we get their buy-in, we start brokering those conversations about retaliation. To make sure that we get in their mind at that time where there's no friends and family around, that hey, we want you to live. what can we do to support you through this process? The most powerful thing about it is that we have community leaders that are arriving at the bedside, like Teddy Martinez, who was a gunshot victim himself and a survivor now, that can tell them, how to, cope with some of the, anger or the frustration or the trauma they have. We have Rashawn Hargrove, who's been working with kids for years, so all the kids already know them. We have KC, we have Jason, we have the rest of Matt, who's from these neighborhoods. And then me, because I used to work with them as when they were kids, as a juvenile PO, they have a level of trust in me because they kind of grew up with me. So all these relationships we already had, now we can broker in the hospital and carry them through their when they arrive back in the community. So thus far, since October that we launched, we helped over 70 gunshot victims. Currently, we have about, what's head? Is it like 45 or 40 gunshot victims on our caseload that we're doing case management with?
Yeah. And as Lisa stated earlier, like they're coming in like a half a dozen at a time, like for the last 2 months, and it's hard. Like it's hard on the community, and it's hard on even on our staff.
Yeah. So we do.
October's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of hard work. We don't have a big staff. We only have 4 full-time case managers. Eddie's taking up a big load because when we originally planned for this program, we only planned for 60 people, 60 gunshot victims. Unfortunately, because there's so many people getting shot, I had to expand that number because it's hard for us to say no to anyone, right? How do you say, hey, no, we're not going to help you even though you're a gunshot victim? A lot of them come right off the street. A lot of them, they meet us in the beginning before we were launching the hospital in October. We just went out in the community and asked who was a gunshot victim. So we were able to get a lot of buy-in just from that. So I think the power was that we went straight to the community. We didn't do a big press conference. We didn't go through the hospital. We didn't go through the police. We didn't go through politicians. We went straight to the neighborhoods at 9 o'clock at night. And right there, what would they say? Y'all out here at night?
They say they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it out there. And the way I always introduce Lisa, I'm like, I got a doctor. They be like, you got a whole doctor out here? So
right.
They're pretty excited about it, and I think that like Lisa stated, we've been up since October, and I think that by the end of the year, I think that we really can make a huge impact with what we're doing in the city, and it goes back to you guys' argument about Trump and Biden, and I guess with Biden in office, it's allowing us to continue to do the work, and it's going to allow us to be able to do the work even more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we do in a nutshell. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Lisa, I heard you said that you're not working with any of the I heard that you're not working with any of your local legislators. Did I hear you say that?
So recently, because we need help, especially with this $10 million that's coming through the governor's office, we've reached out to local legislators, Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter, who's been a champion of restorative justice work and social justice, and also Benji Wimberly, who's also our local assemblyman. And we've actually asked for his buy-in to help support us to make sure that that money, that $10 million that's coming for gun violence intervention comes to us.
To the right folks. That's right.
Yeah, come straight to the community and not like these, not other nonprofits that often get this type of funding. So
the reason I ask, because they just passed a piece of legislation down at the legislature on Friday about gun violence, and if you don't have the number, it's AJR 33, and it was acknowledging, I'm trying to get designating June 2nd of each year as gun violence in the state of New Jersey. But when you talk to Assemblyman Wimberly, he'll probably, so long as you got it, you're trying to get that money and trying to get it funneled to you. So you're doing what you got. Okay.
Last week. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're doing that. Okay.
Chris, you wanted to jump in.
Oh, how are you, Dr. Chowdhury? I want you to know that I'm trying not to get my fangirl on right now. Is Jonathan Austin on the screen? Do you believe?
Yeah, Jonathan is off, so you have to behave yourself.
Unmute your mic. Do you remember the Chowdhury cards that got read on the criminal justice debate topic?
Oh wow,
that's the person.
You helped us win some debate rounds. I'm a high school debate coach, and I thank you. So you have high school kids and college kids.
Yeah, you know, since I don't do no community work, often
that you do.
You know what I'm saying? Since I don't do no community work, it's cool. Anyway,
you teach it. What are you talking about? That's
I give Chris Randall a hard time all the time, and he introduces me to the scholarship of the best people. So yes, your scholarship has been used by both high school and college debate teams to make points on criminal justice reform.
If you give me your contact information, Dr. Chowdhury, I'll send you some of the stuff that I did, so that you know, so we can have informed conversations, places like this. It's cool, no problem.
And absolutely, I'm gonna throw out some love. Absolutely, Chris is amazing, right? At finding amazing resources and bringing them to me and my team, so that we could win some debate.
In a community that I'm not from, no problem. Just tell them out. Anyway, so Dr. Chowdhury, I know that you are. One of the things that I thought was most interesting when I was, actually reading your work, because you are a scholar too, is that you take an intersectional approach to some of these questions, and you use Kimberly Crenshaw's theory to then kind of to talk about this, and also you kind of highlight it because I'm the one on the
trying to get hold of Kimberly Crenshaw for 4 years. Keep talking.
I got your back, Bob. All I do is tell. Anyway, I'm moving on. But I noticed that you talked about sort of how Black women, or particularly young adolescent women, have been crowded out of this conversation about gun violence and all of that. Can you talk about some of that? Because I read your work, because I do, I'm saying, not that, I'm saying when I'm selling out, I'm spending time, when I'm selling out, in between selling out and, tap dancing.
You answer questions. Stop being silly.
Oh yeah. So yes,
No, Mr. Olsen, we don't need you to jump in right now. I'm talking to Dr. Chowdhury.
We want to give her a chance to answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's first of all, I appreciate you even knowing some of the work that I do. I don't even be thinking that anybody reads my stuff. When you're an academic, you think you're just writing for other people.
This young lady's got a bio of work. I saw at least about 15 published pieces that you've written. I haven't had a chance to read them all yet.
Actually, I'm holding them right here.
Right on. That's right. That's right.
Cool.
There's plenty of places to go with that. Right on. Keep lifting it up.
So I definitely look at things from an intersectional, framework, and I think Ted could tell you. For me, the young girls, especially young Black women, they are left out of this equation, right? Because especially like when we talk about violence and victims of violence and gun violence, we know that there is a higher rate of young Black men, but women are also living in I don't know.
Sorry.
I'm not. Oh, it's okay. All right. So
it was Karen.
It's from an intersectional point. I just want to acknowledge that we do have young Black women, young Latino women also a part of our program. Unfortunately, they are also being at a higher rate victims of gun violence as well, that we don't pay attention to, and some of the issues that we don't always pay attention to, especially when we talk about anti-violence movements and investment. We often talk about young boys, but the young girls are going through things as well, right? As public health crisis, whether it's sexual health or reproductive health, even the care that they receive right in the hospital. All those kind of things, even the opportunities they have in the community, housing opportunities, all that kind of stuff, even their relationship to the men in the community. So I think that that's really important, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I know in our program, I want to make sure that the young girls feel seen as well, because a lot of attention goes on the young men, right, and the plight that young men have, and yes, they have high rates, but the young women that are in that community are dealing with just as many issues. So I appreciate that. And some of the things that we are trying to do is have more culturally responsive mental health for our young girls. I think about 3 weeks ago, right, Ted? We did yoga in the office.
I was getting ready to ask you about that, because I also read that you also a certified yoga instructor,
yoga
right?
master. Yes.
Yeah, it was powerful. Yeah, we had our young girls there, and we had our young survivors of violence there, and we did yoga with them. And it was so important for us to talk about body and being safe in our body, right? Because a reality is young girls, we have high rates of, trauma as far as sexual violence against our bodies or physical violence against our bodies prior to becoming adults. And we don't really talk about that, especially in minority communities, right? I'm South Asian myself, and me being a victim of childhood trauma, I know that we never had an opportunity to talk about it, and I see similar things because I grew up with the stake in Patterson, and unfortunately, a lot of young girls that I grew up with went through something similar, and it's just never in the mainframe, right? Because in many immigrant communities of color, we kind of don't really talk about childhood victimization, how that leads to truancy, or how that leads to running away, how that leads to other life choices that young girls make, right? So it's very important for me to do yoga with our young girls, especially as victims of violence in another way, right? Because now they literally look at their body as something unsafe. And it's very important for them to be present and know that they're safe, that there's ways to become more safe and cope with some of their trauma. So yeah, that's very important to me. And in my scholarship, to always acknowledge the different perspectives that women of color go through, because you can't put all women in the same box, right? Intersectional experiences are important.
And Professor, are you still at BMCC?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, and just because I used to work for the union that represents you, the professors.
Oh, okay.
I used to work at the Professional Staff Congress, and I know that y'all have, and I don't know if you had the opportunity, but I get your contact from Zaid to see if one of the organizers, because the professional development funds that they have set aside for you guys are tremendous, and to make sure that you're engaged so that you can get some of those dollars to assist the work that you're doing as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have a really powerful union. I know that.
Yes. Yes. I used to work in the legal department. So so we'll get you money so you can continue this work, and especially yoga. I know in our suburban communities where I see them doing yoga with students at the at the kindergarten and pre-K level. I think that's dynamic, and if we can continue that program and even stretch it to go back so that we can go back in our urban communities, because it's a yoga all around is just something that we were talking about, and it's so funny how our shows always come full circle. But if we can get in terms of wellness, yoga is something that we need to put into our wellness program all around, especially starting as young as possible. So kudos to you, and keep doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
One last thing I wanted to ask you about in terms of, because what do you mean when you say ethical aspects of justice? What do you mean when you say that? When you say we need more ethical, because I've read what you contributed to that anthology about ethical justice, when I wasn't paying attention. So I wanted to know, like, what is your approach to ethical justice reform, right? Because while in just so you know, we've been having this back and forth about Joe Biden and Donald Trump and sort of approaches to all of these different questions. What does actual ethical criminal justice reform look like? And if is there a particular platform or rubric that you use, or is there some other way that you come up with that conclusion?
Sure. So I teach constitutional law right now, and I start my class by asking my students, what does justice mean? And when you look up the definition of justice, it says moral righteousness or ethical consciousness. And I often ask them, do you think that our justice system currently represents moral righteousness and ethical consciousness? And overwhelmingly, they all say no, right? Most of my students are also students of color, so their life experiences have shown them that our justice system is currently unethical and immoral, right? Especially if you have a school to prison pipeline that's consistently, pushed through and kind of focused on young Black and brown men and women. And then we have this, private prison corporations that make money off of bodies, right? All these different things. So when I talk about ethics and moral righteousness and all that kind of stuff, especially in terms of the Constitution and equity and due process and all that kind of stuff, The reality is, like, when we read the Constitution, obviously it wasn't written for all of us. It was written for aristocratic white men. The only reason that we have any freedom is because we fought for it, specifically Black people in this country throughout its history. And people like me, immigrants and women and, you know, other people of color have been fortunate enough because of hard work that, you know, people of color, especially Black people, have done in this country, that we're afforded any rights. So when we talk about, you know, ethical reform and all that kind of stuff, it's basically all that stuff they wrote in the Constitution. It needs to apply to all of us. So it can't just apply to some of us, right? Otherwise, there is no justice. There is no justice system. It's only for a few. And we know that the system it's not that it's broken, it's working for who it needs to work for. So actually, I'm really an abolitionist. So let's just be clear, you know, that's why I do the work I do right now. That's why I want to build the infrastructure of the community so that community-based public safety is at the, you know, is at the forefront of public safety. However, I know that right now we're not at a place where we can just get rid of police and prisons and everything because we're not, the infrastructure and the resources are just not there. So while we're getting to that path of abolition, I think that we need to really figure out, you know, how do we do the right thing? You know, who's going to prison? Why are people going to prison for drug charges or, you know, things of that nature that are really crimes of poverty, right? Why are people, you know, going to prison or anything like that for sex crime, you know, like a sex work, right? How can, right now we're part of the war on drugs, what is it, Ted? It's what's it called? I'm sorry, I don't want to misspeak. Abolish the war on drugs movement in New Jersey, where we want to, you know, decriminalize, you know, all these legislation. So that would be ethical, right? Because especially we know that these drug laws were created to impact one community disproportionately, and that's why we see the population in prison the way we do. Even when we talk about violence, when we're talking about ethical justice, how can we have all these mandatory minimums on violence if we haven't even thought about the infrastructure in the community that leads to violence, right? If we talk about Patterson, we know what's causing violence. We're talking about the lack of housing, the lack of food, the lack of proper education. So if we're going to have these conversations about, you know, really having justice, then we need to have those conversations about how do we really build resources and, you know, invest in community before we just lock people up. Locking people up is the easy thing. That isn't ethical at all. Locking people up is just hiding away the problem for a little while because they come home and that problem never eradicated, right? It's all about trauma and stuff like that. So if we're going to do something right now, at the stage we are right now, where we're actually having conversations with both sides of the party, we need to think about, you know, resentencing, you know, our sentencing formats, right? These mandatory minimums that we've created that have caused this disproportionality. We have to talk about the disproportionate amount of people of color that are consistently going to prison, even in our juvenile system. Right now, I know that we're talking about decriminalizing, to closing down Jamesburg, right? How do we reinvest that money? We're going to save millions of dollars, right? Are we just going to create another system that's just going to surveil these kids, or are we going to actually invest in their future? So when I talk about that, that's what I mean. I don't know if that was an abstract or vague answer.
Absolutely,
no, that was a great answer.
And I got and the last thing
we're going to have to transition, and we're going to have you back. We're absolutely going to have you back on the show, and we would be honored to have you back. As
to bridge to the next conversation too,
right? And it flows in. So so we definitely are going to have you back. We love your work. We love the stuff that you do. I didn't know we were even using you in terms of the work that you do.
We know often. It's fine. So, you do all the community work by yourself. You understand? You know, we got
absolutely. So thank you for that. Thank you for helping people when you didn't even know you were helping people. And you were helping a bunch of kids win a bunch of debate rounds and deal with and argue against racism in an academic community that is predominantly white. You've empowered a lot of kids with the stuff that you wrote. So we're definitely going to have you back. And thanks, Chris, because I didn't.
Wait. You gonna let them go without?
Yeah, they got the question.
The last question, which is the segue into our next segment, is. Can we
let DJ Rhino ask the question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And Rhino, before you ask the question, Professor and Teddy, I put some questions in the chat for you guys. Okay. Go ahead, Rhino. DJ Rhino.
All right, what's good? Peace, Teddy. Peace, Liza. I just wanted to ask y'all, right now, like, let's say, you know, if you're in your car or if you got some headphones on or whatever, what is it in hip hop, in the hip hop culture? What is it in hip hop music that you're listening to right now? Like, what's got your ear right now? Who's got your ear right now as far as an artist or group or anything like that?
Ted, you go first.
Oh,
Ted, you're on mute.
You gotta unmute yourself.
yourself.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, just unmute yourself.
Yeah, he's making moves too while he's working, while he's talking to us. Yeah.
All right, so so can you unmute yourself? Because I can't unmute you.
There we
I'm
go.
sorry about that.
There we go.
I say what we do is, it's funny that you asked that question because me and Lisa was just this morning. We listen to whatever the kids listen to, Lil Chopper, Lil Baby, Baby, because it helps us stay in tune with them and understand what they're dealing with, and try to, in some senses, understand how they're thinking. And that's part of the concert. Like we had a discussion today about what we're going to allow. We're going to allow them to be themselves, with the exception of not promoting any type of drill music, meaning gang banging, shoot 'em up, stuff like that. So we listen to what they listen to. I guess that's the question.
Okay. All right.
So as for me, I'm an old school hip hop head, but out of some of the new artists, I do like G Herbo a little bit. I listen. Like I said, I like to listen to whatever they're listening to, so I can see where their mindset is at. But I love Kendrick. His music always gets me really focused. Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys heard any of the new J. Cole album yet?
I heard probably like the single that he came out with. That's about it. I didn't listen to the whole album.
Okay. That's what's up, though. That's what's up.
And it's funny you ask that because I think I had to, because one thing that I do is that on my way to work, I try to listen to what they listen to. Because a kid asked me yesterday, like, do you listen to J. Cole? And I was faking like I did, but I didn't know what he was talking about because I really. So sometimes we just have to fake it like, with them, but they educate us. They keep us young.
Fake it till you make it. I hear that. Well, thank you guys for being here, and I know this is the beginning of a long relationship. And I was asking you, my aunt, my family, if you ever come across a Trinace Barbie or Anthony Barbie, those are my aunts and uncles out there. So we're doing a lot of work. So
go
ahead. I'm sorry.
So where you from?
Oh, I'm from Orange. They're from it's my husband's side of the family from down. What's this? The CCPC, the projects down there? Yeah.
You talking about Gate and Denise and
yeah.
I know.
That's my aunt and uncle. Yeah. So you
Gate
went.
Uncle?
My Uncle Gate.
Yeah.
Yes, Uncle Gate is my uncle. Okay. Yes. Just had a birthday too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll tell him that I met you. So maybe I'll see you at one of the cookouts or something. Okay.
All right,
but we look forward to you coming back because the connections, and you have to come down to Jonathan's class soon to talk to the students.
Absolutely,
okay?
absolutely. COVID's about to be
debate.
over.
Debate is an excellent restorative tool.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we know who better be there the day you come because we know who read.
But Chris, I will tell you, I don't know if when Ted started talking in the beginning, that's one of the things he said. I heard y'all talking about Biden and them, and he said how Biden had enabled him to. I think it was funding, but he started in the beginning. No, I'm just saying. No, it is, but I'm just saying because Chris asked the question, but I just wanted to let you know that Ted had answered it in the beginning. He did.
Wonderful.
All right, so thank you so much for coming out, and we definitely will have you back.
Lisa's very proud of you. You know that, girl. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Love the work that you do. DJ Rhino, what's up, man? Like you are talking about the state of hip hop right now. What's up?
Not much, man. Really, all I had to talk about because I know we talked about it briefly last week about J. Cole's album, The Off Season. I finally got to listen to it. I listened to it about 2-3 times. But before I want to get to that, I want to say happy anniversary to Nas, which is why I got the shirt on tonight, for the release of If I Rule the World, which was the song that also featured our own Brick Cities, our own Jersey's Lauryn Hill, Miss Hill. She did the hook on the song. But Nas, they put that out back in 1996 on this day, today. If I Ruled the World. So I just want to say happy anniversary to Nas and Lauryn Hill on that one. Because that was one of the biggest crossover hits. But going back to J. Cole and the album, the Off Season, I got to listen to it, and yeah, I really do like the album, man. I like most of the album, as far as just my real critical ear. I like most of what's on the album. I think the strangest part of the album to me, but at the same time I kind of understand it industry wise, but was the intro with Cameron and Lil Jon on there. It was weird to hear them on a J. Cole record, but I understood musically that the music that J. Cole was using on the record was some music that Cameron and Dipset and Jay-Z, I believe, used back in the day in the 90s, so or the early millennium rather. But that connection I kind of understood why Cameron was on it, but it was just weird initially when I first heard Cameron on there. Little John always just brings up the energy, so and he's just one of those guys. Little John is almost like a Snoop Dogg, where it's like wherever he goes, he's just accepted and loved, and people laugh and love him. You know what I'm saying? But that was probably the only awkward thing on the album. But most of that album, and John, I know we were talking about Applying Pressure. Yeah, so we were talking about that. I listened to the lyrics, and some of the lyrics I can kind of see how they can be directed towards No Name, but a lot of it sounded like just like he was, because I think J. Cole had a few haters during this time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think he had a couple of haters, and it sounded like he was kind of hitting a couple of people on that record. But I can see how you might see like that was a shot to No Name. You know what I'm saying? Because he's more successful than her. I mean, the one thing I noticed about J. Cole that was like a theme throughout the album was just how much money this dude's made in his career. He talks a lot about the millions, the M's that he's made in his
100 million.
Yeah, 100 million, man. That's a lot, and but he talks about that a lot throughout the album, and he mentions that in Applying Pressure. So, I mean, anybody pretty much. I mean, if you ain't got 100 million, then anybody could be a punk MC up against J. Cole right now, But the song was still dope. I love that song. I love what me and Chris was talking about last week was Pride is the Devil. He's got some good joints on there, man. Punching the Clock, I dug a lot. That the whole album it's got a lot of flavor. So I mean, I gotta correct myself from last week. Last week I was saying it's got a lot of trap beats, but really there's only like maybe four or maybe 5 songs on there that's got like that trap flavor, and that's just me. I'm an old head, so sometimes I don't always connect to the trap sound. I got to be in the mood for the trap sound as far as the beats, but most of that album is a solid album, man. And lyrically, I mean, ain't nobody touching Cole, man. I mean, he's when you speak with that level of honesty in your career, man, you can't really be touched. It's the same thing with like a Kanye or Eminem. When you speak with that
you go so far.
level of honesty,
you go far. I'm with you 95%. Then you do that to me. You put Kanye West in there with them. What are you doing?
No. I put Kanye West in there. I'm talking about old Kanye. I'm talking about Kanye when he first came on. That was the whole thing that I felt about Kanye when he first got on was his level of honesty lyrically. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just giving him that credit. I'm not giving him any credit for anything recent that he's done. But I'm talking about the Kanye that we know when he came on.
You can be my Kardashian on the come up. Did you hear Jay-Z? Did you hear Jay-Z go shoot at Kanye very badly on his DMX album? Did you hear that?
On DMX's album, I gotta listen to it again. I didn't pay attention to the verse like that.
Austin.
Yeah.
Austin, you there?
Yeah, I'm there. What's up?
So usually Jay-Z, me being a Jay-Z fanatic, what he usually does if he has a problem with you, he'll paint a picture of you that makes you look real bad, but everybody will know it's you, but he won't say your name because he thinks that'll help you.
Yeah.
Right? But in this situation, he said, he's like kind of gloating about the achievements. And then he says, you could be my Kardashian, queen of the come up.
Oh, wow.
So
what, like Kanye was using her as a come up?
No, he's saying that she used him as a come up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So to me, I love it because I like overt belligerence. I'm not really, I'm from a different generation where we believe in, overt belligerence. I understand that, Baba Zaid believes in the community. I don't, all that way, because, and in more the words of a great philosopher, you either ride with us or collide with us. So I'm just kind of a different era than DJ Rhino. So I appreciate that sort of articulation and energy from an aesthetic perspective. It's a nice. There you go. Y'all like that? I packaged that up real nice. Y'all see that?
DJ Rhino, my nephew is always talking about Joe Budden and how he is lyrically as a rapper. Is he local?
Joe Budden is Jersey City.
Okay. And how do you feel him? How you feel about him as a rapper?
Joe Budden is dope. He's one of my Virgo brothers. He's a Virgo. What's weird? I mean, it's funny that me and my wife were just talking about these Virgo MCs. The only one that I connect to the most out of all the Virgo MCs, of course, is this man right here on my chest. But like Lord Jamar, Joe Budden. Who else were we talking about? It was oh man, there's a couple of other Virgos out there, but they out there with their delivery and how they express their opinions, man. But nah, Joe Budden is one of those guys. I actually agree with a lot of the stuff that Joe Budden says. Not all of it, but a lot of stuff he says I agree with. I just don't agree with how he brings it across. He's very abrupt. Yeah, he can be pretty abrupt with it, man. But at the same time, I respect him for it because that's him. That's how he feels. And again, the actual points of views that he brings up, I kind of agree with a lot of them. But that's Jersey City, though.
Jersey City.
So what else is going on, DJ?
What about Chirac? You going out to see Chirac tomorrow?
Chirac tomorrow between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. at Gun Hill Park in the Bronx, New York City. There's going to be an event for Chirac. It's going to be claimed that day. Is going to be claimed June 5th. Is going to be claimed Chirac Day, MC Chirac Day, and they're having a whole event for that. Chuck Chillout's going to be DJing, DJ Breakout and DJ Barron's going to be out there, and those were the original DJs for Chirac and a lot of MCs back in the early days in the Bronx and stuff, man. So they're going to be representing on the turntables as well. Our own Jersey Brick City, Rod Digger, she's going to be hosting the event. So that's going to be dope. And I was mentioning to one of my people earlier today that, I'm really excited to see how many of the sisters in the culture, sisters in the rap game come out for this. You know what I'm saying? Because, this is really for the sisters. I mean, it's Chirac Day, but, she's the first lady of hip hop, man.
That's right.
We got Rod Digger, MC Light, Roxanne Shante, and so many others that follow. I would love to see how many come out for this because it's gonna be huge. I'm taking my daughter, of course. I'm gonna take her and one of her friends, and we're just gonna make an event of it tomorrow. So hopefully, it's said that the weather's supposed to be good tomorrow. Somebody was talking about rain before, but I think it's gonna be like kind of how it was today. I think it might even be hotter tomorrow.
It's gonna be tomorrow's the beginning of the heat wave, isn't it? It's gonna be hot. Are you gonna? Yeah. Now you're gonna do it old school. You're getting on a train. How you going? You gonna get on?
No, we're gonna drive. We're gonna drive out there. Nah,
You're not taking the subway over. Okay.
That subway ride, man. I remember them days, boy. Ain't nothing like them days on the subway. Remember the days taking the path, or the days taking the 108 to New York City, or the 118. Back when it was the 118. I used to do all that stuff, man.
Yeah, for us it's the 88 and R. But what's interesting is that A Train and all the graffiti. And you know what? Speaking of hip hop, one of my favorite parts of watching Coming to America is the scene when they're on the train and how much graffiti was on that train. I mean, because the trains are like sparkling clean now, but back in the day, especially the A Train used to be lit up.
A lot of times, you know, just in my free time, sometimes on the weekend or something in the afternoon, you know, I'll go on YouTube and I'll try to find like old video clips of like old New York, because you know I'm originally from New York. And I try to find, but I'm from like the old New York, when New York was bankrupt and beat up, and you know Ed Koch and that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so I look for like, I look for old clips of old New York City, just to reminisce and you know get.
Oh, that's so.
Well, you really hold the rock because I reached out to her, right? So if you get to her. Reminder that we reached out to her.
She just hasn't reached back to me, but I did reach out to her. I haven't gotten a response.
Yeah, well, she reached back and she's basically said, okay, it was just a question of working out a Friday.
Yeah, so which Friday it's going to be, right? Yeah, that's what I told her too. So you know, we'll see, we'll work that out. But definitely, once again, you know, for
what part of the city you from? I didn't realize you were from the city. What part of the city you from?
Man, I'm from all over. I was born in Brooklyn. I was born in Cumberland Hospital. So I was living on in Fort Greene on South Portland Avenue. That's where I started, but I was only there for like my first 2-3 years, and then you know I moved to Columbus Avenue for a minute in Manhattan. Then moved out to Long Island. I was in Stony Brook, Long Island. My mother and father went back. Stony Brook. Yeah, my mother and father had went back to SUNY, back to college at SUNY.
Amiri taught there for years.
Yeah, and my father was a DJ at the radio station there at that time. So he used to take me there like 4:30 in the morning to this radio.
Wait, Rhino. Did we know that your dad was a DJ? Did we know that?
No, we did not.
Yeah, we talked about it a while back because you know I had lost my father back in 2014. So I'm sure.
Hold up, stop. Wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold up.
I want to know what he was playing.
So you saying
my father was playing a lot of fusion and a lot of funk. You know, me and my boy was just talking about how like
bringing back Friday Night Funk tonight.
My mother used to be looked at as Shaka Khan, and my father was like Herbie Hancock.
Wow.
When I was growing up. So yeah, my father, because he was a keyboardist and he was a DJ.
Headhunters was Herbie's most seminal album. One of the most seminal albums of that period.
I remember when that album was fresh.
Oh my God, played it to death.
Yeah.
Well, so any of those albums back there, your dad's, any of those albums behind you,
some of these albums are my dad's. Matter of fact, I don't want to make it too deep for y'all, but this speaker right here, that's actually an urn. That's my pops right there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my pops, and that was his favorite cologne back then, English leather. So I just had that next one.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that first.
Yeah.
You have a guest on for next week. As we're you know, because we have about a minute left.
You're right. Next week. So next week is the 11th.
Yep.
All right. So June 11th. Next week, I'm gonna have on. We were just talking about. Is he Patterson or Passaic? Oh man, I'm missing it now. If he's from Patterson or Passaic, but Passaic. Rashawn's son, my man Rashawn's son from Passaic. He's gonna be on the show next week, Friday. We're gonna talk to him about his new release, 12 Jewels, and just talk about, you know, some of his background, and you know, because he's to me he's kind of like an OG. He's kind of like a legend, like a hidden underground legend out here. You know, he's been doing this thing for a while, like a lot of us. But I want to bring him on because he's got a lot of positive, you know, a lot of positive music, a lot of positive outlooks and views on stuff. Man, he's a strong-minded brother, man, and he's also going through some things in his life that he can talk about. You know, I'm not going to bring it up right now, but you know, Rashawn's son is he's a real good brother, and I definitely wanted to have him on. Like I said, since he's got this new album coming out, it actually drops on that day, on Friday, June 11th. So we're gonna have him on. We're gonna talk about the album. We're gonna talk about him, and, you know, just get into it.
All right, cool. So this is another week that we have on All Politics Are Local. America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. We are so glad for the guests that we had. We're glad that we had Congressman Payne on leading us off. We're glad that Joseph Cryan came on the show as well, and we're glad that the Patterson Health Collective came on as well. We had some really good guests on here. Donna, do you want to tell everybody to vote on June 8th?
I got a quick announcement too, real quick.
So just want everybody to remember to get out and vote on Tuesday, June 8th, which is the New Jersey primary. But I will have a flyer put up on the All Politics local page. But I want everybody to know that on Sunday, June 6th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at First Shiloh Baptist in Orange on Main and Scotland, which is a major intersection, you can come up and get your shot. If you have not been vaccinated and you desire to receive your shot, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., you can walk up and you can get your shot. First Shiloh Baptist, Main and Scotland.
Okay.
Sunday.
Everybody hold June 21st. We're going to bum rush the show in Trenton in this fight for the CCRB bill. Details to follow, but hold June 21st. We're taking it to the streets. We're taking it to the state capitol. Make these Democrats do the right thing.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. And that's another week on All Politics the Local, America's number one.
And happy birthday, Pastor Roundtree and Brother Keith. Happy birthday.
That's right. Happy birthday to both of you.